Chapter 1214. As one of the 7 capital cities of the Tian-Yuan continent, the Holy Emperor's empire was bustling with activity. Most of the people on the streets were wealthy merchants and disciples of extraordinary clans. Occasionally, there would be a few crudely dressed mercenaries among the crowd. Not only was the city of God the territory of one of the 3 great clans that controlled the empire, the Tsar family, it was also a paradise for Radiant Saint Masters. Not only were most of the Radiant Saint Masters gathered here, but all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the continent were gathered here as well. Currently, there were over 20 known Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the continent, and all of them were elders of the Radiant Saint Master Union. In the center of the city of God, there was a majestic castle that looked like a sleeping beast. It was full of vicissitudes of life. Although the castle was snow white, its color was a bit old and not bright. It still had the aura of time. The castle was the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union. At this moment, on the 7th floor of the headquarters, the president, Adami, sat on a throne in a lavishly decorated hall. His face was no longer as bright as it had been several years ago. Instead, it was rather haggard. Even the wrinkles on his face had increased, making him seem even older. Esteemed President, Yilan requests an audience. At this moment, a rather respectful voice rang out from outside the door. Sir Yilan, please come in, the president gently said. With a gentle wave of his right hand, a ball of milky white light flashed in his hand. The tightly shut door was silently opened. A man in a tight suit walked in from the outside. He looked to be in his early 30s, with a pair of deep black eyes that were bright and full of expression like 2 black gems. His handsome face was covered with the vicissitudes of life from the wind, frost, snow, and rain. Esteemed President, Yilan led a group of people to search for Master Yun Tian under your orders, but we still haven't received any news about him. The young man clasped his hands at the president. Adami frowned as he sat on the throne. He murmured, Yun Tian has already disappeared for several years. I really don't know where he has gone. I've used a secret technique many times, but I still haven't been able to contact him. Has something happened to Yun Tian? The president became gloomy when he thought of this possibility. Yun Tian was his first disciple. He had basically watched Yun Tian grow up. Although they were master and disciple on the surface, Adami had already begun to treat Yun Tian as his own son. As a result, Adami felt rather sorrowful when he thought about how Yun Tian might have met with misfortune. Yilan, it's been hard on you these past few days. You should go and rest first. As for Yun Tian, there's no need to look for him. Adami waved his hand gently, his expression somewhat dispirited. Esteemed President, you must take care of yourself. Yilan will be taking his leave. Yilan's voice was filled with concern before he left silently. Sigh. Adami slumped against the wide and comfortable back of the throne tiredly after Yilan's departure. At this moment, Adami could not help but think about some matters of the past. He had taken in a total of 3 disciples in his life. His first disciple had passed away long ago, while his second disciple was Yun Tian, who he had watched grow up. The third disciple he had taken in was the proudest thing in his life. Both of his first 2 disciples were exceptional. They possessed extremely great potential as Radiant Saint Masters, but the difference between them and his third disciple was like the difference between heaven and earth. This was because not only had his third disciple become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, but he was also a supreme expert who had shaken up the continent. He possessed an advantage that far surpassed Radiant Saint Masters on the path of cultivation. He was now a renowned Holy Emperor, where even the 10 protector clans feared him. Unfortunately, the unexpected happened. The third disciple that Adami was extremely proud of had taken away the Saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union. He had almost caused the Union to face the threat of collapse. Not only had the loss of the Saint artifact caused irreparable damage to the Union, but had also severed Adami's sliver of hope of becoming a Class 8 Radiant Saint Master. Adami had already entered the twilight years. He originally had a lifespan of 3,000 years. Coupled with the additional 200 years from the 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, he had a total of 3,200 years. He had already used over 3,100 years of his lifespan, so he only had a few dozen years left. Adami had never married, nor did he have any children. He did not have any extravagant wishes in his old age. He only hoped that he would be able to personally witness the radiant Saint Master Union become even more powerful and glorious in the final moments of his life if he had not reached Class 8. At the same time, he would have a close descendant. Send him off. But now, his final wish had become nothing more than a dream. Let alone becoming even more powerful and glorious, it would already be extremely fortunate for the Union to not decline. It was even more impossible for him to be sent off by a descendant he was close to. His second disciple, Yin Tian, had already gone missing for many years. His third disciple's status was no longer the same as before. Even he, the president of the Union, could not befriend him, let alone send him off. I, Adami, have worked my entire life for the glory of the radiant Saint Master Union. I never thought that after working for the Union for over 2,000 years, not only would I fail to see the Union achieve its glory, I would even cause the Union to fall to my hands. I, Adami, am a sinner of the Union, the president sighed. The president of the radiant Saint Master Union sighed at the sky. His voice trembled slightly and was filled with misery. Tears even flickered in his old eyes. In a deep mountain thousands of miles away from the city of God, a small wooden hut stood alone on a mountain peak. Inside the hut, Zarkayun was still lying on the bed with her eyes closed. She had been unconscious for many years and still hadn't woken up. Kayun, do you remember when we first met in the city of God? Back then, I was only an Earth Saint Master and was chased into the city of God by an evil person. I was heavily injured and my space ring had been taken away, so I was penniless. At the same time, I was unbearably thirsty. Without any other choice, I stole a set of clean clothes from a small family and changed into them. Afterward, I dragged my exhausted body to an inn to eat and drink. In the end, when I was paying the bill, I had originally planned on taking a beating in exchange for some money, but I never thought that you would suddenly appear at that crucial moment. Back then, you were so beautiful, like a fairy from the heavens. From the first moment I saw you, I was deeply attracted to you. Back then, I still didn't know who you were. Not only did you help me pay the bill, but you could tell with a single glance that I was heavily injured as well. You gave me an extremely precious Class 6 Radiant Spirit pill and constantly chatted with me. From that moment onwards, we became friends. I still remember how furious you were when you learned that I had been hunted down by an evil person. Afterward, you left the city with me to find that evil person. We worked together to kill that evil person. How Wu gently spoke as he held Zart Sayun's hand. Reminiscence and nostalgia filled his eyes. Zart Kayun had been unconscious for several years, and he had also stayed with her for several years. He had not left for even a single moment. Kayun, do you still remember the promise we made back then? You said that once we were powerful enough, we would travel to the ends of the world and travel the entire continent. Kayun, wake up. Let's fulfill our promise back then. On a lone island, several million kilometers away from the Tian Yuan continent, a barefoot, disheveled, beggar-like person in tattered clothes crouched on the ground as he wolfed down a raw fish in his hand. Eat, 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 eat. Yang Yuqian, I want to eat you. I want to eat your flesh and drink your blood. Ha 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 ha. Isn't it painful? Cry out, cry out, cry out, cry out, and struggle. Before me, Master Yin Tian, it doesn't matter how you struggle. You'll still end up as food in the end. The beggar-like person wolfed down the raw fish in his hand as he mumbled to himself in a rather crazy manner. He would giggle foolishly from time to time. With a plop, a splash appeared on the shore. A huge fish over 2 feet long had accidentally leaped onto the shore. It struggled desperately in an attempt to return to the water. The eyes of the man who was wolfing down the raw fish suddenly lit up. He threw away the unfinished fish in his hand and exclaimed, Yang Yuqian, don't run. As he spoke, he quickly ran forward and pounced forward, pressing the big fish that was about to return to the water under his body. A stone on the ground made intimate contact with his mouth, causing blood to flow from his nose and mouth. However, he didn't seem to feel any pain. He opened his mouth and spat out 2 broken teeth and a mouthful of dirty blood. He laughed foolishly in excitement. Yang Yuqian, I've caught you. I've caught you. Let's see how you're going to run now. In front of me, Master Yin Tian, even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, you won't be able to escape from my grasp. I want to eat your flesh and drink your blood. He used his 2 heads to grab the fish that was under his chest. The fish immediately struggled with all its might in his hands, its mouth constantly opening and closing. Seeing this, Yin Tian became even more excited. He laughed loudly and said, Yang Yuqian, I didn't think that you would have a day like this. Struggle with all your might. Scream out loud, scream, beg for mercy. If you beg me, Master Yin Tian, to spare you, perhaps I'll spare your life. Yang Yuqian, why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you begging for mercy? Chapter 12:15. In the past, the magical beasts had invaded the Tian Yuan continent en masse because of the winged tiger, but they were stopped by the experts of the Tian Yuan continent. The 2 sides reached an agreement, and the magical beasts all settled down on the small island temporarily. Afterwards, Yin Tian left the Radiant Saint Master Union and traveled overseas with the winged tiger. He wanted to find the magical beasts and tell them that the winged tiger was on Jianshan so that they could harm Jianshan. However, after flying for a few days, Yin Tian fainted from exhaustion. Just as he was about to die in the sea, a beast race powerhouse happened to pass by, picked him up from the sea, and brought him back to this small island. After learning about the winged tiger from Yang Yuqian, the magical beast immediately set off for the Tian Yuan continent again. They had forgotten about Yin Tian. Since the island was extremely far away from the Tian Yuan continent, and Yin Tian was unable to determine the direction of the vast sea, he had no idea where the Tian Yuan continent was. Coupled with his weak strength, he was unable to travel through the sea, so he was trapped on the small island. In the beginning, Yin Tian could still deal with it normally, but as time went on, he became rather unbearable. In the end, he became insane. The next morning, Jianshan led the Vice Sect Master, the 5 elders, and the 4 protectors to the hiding spot of the Underworld Sect. Newbies obviously went with Jianshan. The Vice Sect Master, Jiang Wang, had personally investigated the hiding spot of the Underworld Sect, so he had left behind some coordinates there. Jianshan's group directly arrived at the hiding spot of the Underworld Sect through a space gate constructed by Jiang Wang. This was a yellow world. As far as the eye could see, it was a vast expanse of yellow sand. There was no end in sight. The scorching sun hung high in the sky, emitting a scorching heat that baked the earth until it was boiling hot. Jianshan, newbies, Jiang Wang, the 5 elders, and the 4 protectors hovered 1,000 meters in the air at ease. They looked down at the ground from above. The harsh weather of the desert did not affect them at all. Sect Master, in order to avoid being discovered by the experts of the Underworld Sect, I chose a space gate 1,000 kilometers away from the Underworld Sect. There's a region of loose sand 1,000 kilometers up ahead. The Divine Hall of the Underworld Sect is hidden under the sand, Jiang Wang explained to Jianshan. Jianshan immediately looked up ahead. He nodded slightly and said, "Let's go." Afterward, Jianshan and everyone began to fly 1,000 kilometers away. The 4 protectors, who were the weakest in the group, were all at the 5th heavenly layer of saint rulers. Their comprehension of space was quite high, so they flew extremely quickly. The distance of 1,000 kilometers was covered in less than half an hour. When Jianshan arrived at the region of sand that Jiang Wang had mentioned, he immediately extended the senses of his soul. Sure enough, he discovered a huge divine hall standing silently under the soft sand below him. Jianshan's eyes turned cold. He had already destroyed the Yama Hall of the 2 major culprits who had tried to assassinate Uncle Xiu's wife, so only the Underworld Sect remained. Jianshan no longer hesitated. A powerful killing intent radiated from his body as the Emperor armament silently appeared in his hand. A dark, gray mist coiled around it as it radiated with a violent presence of destruction. Jianshan and the 5 elders shivered inside. The killing intent radiating from Jinshin made them shiver. They had finally witnessed Jinshin's strength with their own eyes. They all thought that the rumors were true. This was because their understanding of Jinshin's strength was still based on the rumors on the Tianyuan continent. None of them knew just how much of the rumors were false. Jinshin swung his sword, and a black sword chi, as thick as an arm, shot through the air like a bolt of lightning. It sank into the loose sand below in a single moment. The sword chi possessed the might of the seventh heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. It directly struck the Divine Hall 100 meters below the sand. Although it was nowhere near enough to destroy the Divine Hall, it was enough to shake it. The Divine Hall violently shook, rousing everyone within. The next moment, a black figure shot out of the Divine Hall with lightning-like speed. It charged out of the desert with a powerful presence and faced off against Jinshin's group. It was a person completely wrapped in black robes. Their appearance was obscured, and it was impossible to tell if they were male or female. The presence they gave off had already reached the fifth heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. "Who are you? Why are you provoking my underworld sect?" The person in black robes asked with a deep voice. His voice was hoarse, and it was neither male nor female. "Ha ha ha, Luo Qi, isn't your memory a little too bad? It's only been 1,000 years, yet you've already forgotten your old friend," sneered Jiang Wang. "Jiang Wang, it's actually you. You're from the Bloodsword sect." The black-robed person's voice was filled with surprise. He then continued, "Isn't the Bloodsword sect a hermit that doesn't care about anything on the Tianyuan continent? May I ask why you've mustered so many people today?" "Luo Qi, this is the new sect master of our Bloodsword sect. Under the sect master's orders, our Bloodsword sect has returned, and your underworld sect will be the sacrificial offering for our return." Jiang Wang laughed aloud. Your Bloodsword sect doesn't have a right to wipe out my underworld sect," sneered the black-robed person. His voice was filled with disdain. "It's not up to you to decide whether we have the right or not," Jinshin coldly replied. He stepped through the air and arrived beside the black-robed person with a single step. The Emperor armament stabbed toward the black-robed person's head. The black-robed person was secretly surprised when he sensed the might of Jinshin's attack. However, he did not slow down at all. Darkness attributed Saint Force surged out from his hand, condensing into a small, black dagger in an instant. He advanced instead of retreating, dodging Jinshin's attack with a tilt of his head. The dagger in his hand was like a cold, venomous snake, silently stabbing toward Jinshin's forehead as a black streak of light. Jinshin sneered disdainfully. With a twist of his wrist, the sword that had stabbed through the air directly swung toward the black-robed person's head. If the speed of Jinshin's first attack could be described as nothing special, then the current attack toward the black-robed person's head was unbelievably fast. As the sword tore through the air, a pitch-black crack appeared in space. The black-robed person was shocked. Jinshin's attack was just too fast. Even with his strength at the fifth heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, he had almost failed to react in time. It was already too late for him to dodge, so he could only change the direction of his dagger toward Jinshin's Emperor armament. When the two of them collided, a rumbling sound immediately erupted. A powerful energy shockwave spread out in all directions with the two of them as the epicenter of their battle. Jinshin's attack possessed the might of the seventh heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, so it was impossible for the black-robed person to block it with his strength at the fifth heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He was immediately blown away. The new sect master of the Bloodsword sect is so powerful. He's actually reached the seventh heavenly layer. Aside from the old sect master who's still in seclusion, no one in my underworld sect is his opponent. The black-robed person was secretly shocked. The black-robed man was secretly shocked. He immediately stopped fighting and quickly rushed underground. As long as he returned to the Divine Palace, he would be in an invincible position. However, as soon as he moved, a bone-chilling coldness swept over. All he saw was Jinshin appear beside him like a ghost. The Emperor armament pulsed with black light as it stabbed toward him with lightning-like speed. The tip of the sword was less than 3 inches away from his forehead. At such a close distance, the black-robed person could even feel the pain coming from his soul. He felt a piercing pain, as if his soul was about to be ripped apart. The black-robed person was shocked. Other than Houston 1,000 years ago, this was the first time he had felt the threat of death in so many years. In that critical moment, the black-robed person spat out a mouthful of dense, black mist. He yelled out, "Darkness Saint Technique, after-image clone." With that, Jinshin's Emperor armament stabbed into the black-robed person's forehead with lightning-like speed. However, Jinshin did not rejoice. Instead, he frowned. His attack had failed. Bang! As soon as Jinshin thought of that, the black-robed person loudly exploded. He turned into a dense, black mist that rapidly expanded, enveloping Jinshin. The black mist was clearly no ordinary mist. It was condensed from darkness-attributed saint force. Even with Jinshin's eyesight, he was unable to see anything within the mist. He could not even see his fingers. Suddenly, a small, black dagger silently appeared behind Jinshin. The dagger had completely fused with the black mist, so it would be difficult to notice it no matter how great one's eyesight was. However, before the dagger could attack Jinshin from behind, Jinshin suddenly turned around and swung his Emperor armament without any hesitation. The chaotic force wrapped around the Emperor armament shattered space. The strike was extremely powerful, affecting the space in a radius of 100 meters. The entire space violently pulsed. Arg! With a painful cry, the small dagger that had appeared behind Jinshin fell from the sky with a bloody arm before it could launch a fatal attack on Jinshin. Not only did the black-robed man who wanted to assassinate Jinshin fail in his sneak attack, but he even lost an arm. The black mist around Jinshin slowly dispersed, and Jinshin's figure gradually appeared before the people of the Bloodsword sect. However, the black-robed person was nowhere to be found. The Vice Sect Master and the 5 elders could not help but let out a sigh of relief when they saw that Jinshin was fine. Although they knew that Jinshin was very powerful, he had faced an expert from the Underworld sect who specialized in assassination. He could have died if he had been careless. "Sect Master, are you fine? Where's Luo Qi?" Jiang Wang arrived beside Jinshin and asked in concern. Jinshin remained calm and composed. He gently shook his head and said, "He's not a threat to me at all, but he fled pretty quickly. After I cut off his arm, he immediately fled into the desert. He went into the Divine Hall." Jinshin spoke calmly, but Jiang Wang and the 5 elders were secretly shocked. An expert from the Underworld sect who had reached the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor and specialized in assassination was not a threat to him at all. They were once again convinced by Jinshin's great strength. Chapter 12:16. Suddenly, the yellow sand below began to violently undulate. A divine temple broke through the yellow sand and slowly rose up from below with a great power. That's the Darkness Divine Hall of the Underworld sect. Jiang Wang immediately cried out when he saw the huge divine hall slowly rise up from the sand. He became stern as well. Although they knew that Jinshin had a way to destroy the divine hall, the indestructible defenses of the divine hall still pressured them greatly. This was because if they could not destroy the divine hall, they would not be able to harm the assassins hiding in there. They needed the strength of a Saint Emperor to destroy the divine hall. Every single divine hall on the Tianyuan continent was created by a holy emperor. They possessed the power of the holy emperor. Although the power could not be used to harm the people outside the divine hall, it could provide the divine hall with the greatest defense. It was not something that a holy emperor could destroy. Even a holy emperor at great perfection would not be able to do so. My underworld sect has existed on the Tianyuan continent for several tens of thousands of years. How can a mere bloodsword sect like you destroy us? Even Houston from 1,000 years ago was unable to destroy my underworld sect with his supreme strength. I'd like to see just how you plan on destroying my underworld sect today. Luo Qi's voice rang out from within the divine hall. Luo Qi's furious voice rang out from the huge divine hall. The divine hall rapidly expanded under his control before flying above their heads. It crushed down on them with a tremendous pressure. Jianshan sneered. A piece of jade had already silently appeared in his hand. With a slight squeeze, the jade was crushed to pieces. Sect Master, retreat, Jiang Wang said to Jianshan before quickly retreating with the 5 elders and 4 protectors. They wanted to leave the range of the Divine Hall. Although the Divine Hall did not possess any offensive power, none of them wanted to be smashed into the sand by it. However, just when Jiang Wang and the others had retreated several dozen steps and had yet to leave the range of the Divine Hall, a spatial force suddenly appeared near Jianshan. 10 meters away from Jianshan, the space there violently pulsed. In the next moment, a crack was ripped open, forming a colorful space gate. Almost the moment the space gate formed, a tremendous pressure surged out of the space gate in a blanket manner, filling the entire region. The air seemed to stop flowing before the tremendous pressure. Even the space there became viscous. The experts of the Bloodsword sect who were retreating nearby all came to a halt. Other than Jiang Wang, who was at the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King, the 5 elders and protectors all felt like they were about to suffocate. They did not even have the ability to breathe properly before the tremendous pressure. Apart from the 4 protectors, Jiang Wang and the 5 elders were all shocked. The pressure was far greater than what the sect master Houston had faced in the past, making them think that they were facing an expert at the level of the Holy Emperor. The Divine Hall above them continued to rapidly descend. The huge base of the Divine Hall loomed over them like a dark cloud, blotting out the sun. At the same time, Ruijin, Honglian, and Black Fish emerged from the space gate side by side. As soon as they arrived, they discovered the Divine Hall that was rapidly descending above them. A sliver of disdain immediately appeared in their eyes. Ruijin slowly raised his hand and used his right hand to support the Divine Hall above him. With a muffled sound, Ruijin's hand made contact with the Divine Hall. The Divine Hall actually came to a halt. The Divine Hall was actually stopped in the air by a single hand from Ruijin. The eyes of Jiang Wang, the 5 elders, and the 4 protectors all narrowed when they saw this. Stopping an entire Divine Hall with a single hand was definitely not something a great perfection expert like the Holy Emperor could do. At that moment, Jiang Wang and the 5 elders were stunned by Ruijin's supreme strength. Although they had heard rumors that Jianshan had 3 supreme experts who were no weaker than the Holy Emperor by his side, that was just a rumor after all. They all believed that the rumors were exaggerated, but now that they had seen it for themselves, the rumors were indeed true. To be able to stop a rapidly descending Divine Hall with a single hand and still maintain a calm demeanor, only the Holy Emperor could do something like that. Aside from the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect who had seen Ruijin's group in action, Jiang Wang and the 5 elders' gazes toward Ruijin's group underwent a drastic change. They did not hide their respect at all. At this moment, Ruijin's hand suddenly shook and immediately erupted with a thunderous rumble. The Divine Hall actually flew high into the air from the shake. The Holy Emperor? You're the Holy Emperor? Impossible, this is impossible. Aside from the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, there's no other Holy Emperor on the Tian Yuan continent. Luo Qi's voice rang out in Jiang Wang's head. Luo Qi's terrified voice rang out from the Divine Hall. However, he soon seemed to think of something and could not help but cry out, I know. You're the 3 magical beasts that follow the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. No one paid any attention to Luo Qi, even though he was a 5th heavenly layer Holy Emperor. At the same time, a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared. Ruijin had drawn the sacred dragon's sword above his head. Ruijin gripped the sword as his presence rapidly skyrocketed. He directly swung the sword at the Divine Hall. 100-meter-long strand of golden sword chi appeared as soon as he swung the sword. It was filled with origin energy. This was a power that only those who had surpassed the Holy Emperor and reached the origin realm could control. Even the Holy Emperor needed to avoid it. The 100-meter-long strand of golden sword chi struck the Divine Hall, immediately causing it to rumble. The entire Divine Hall violently shook before being cleaved in half under the disbelieving gazes of Jianshan and the experts of the Bloodsword sect. The divine hall of the underworld sect had actually been cleaved apart by a single strike from Ruijin. No, impossible, this is impossible. Luo Qi's cry of shock and disbelief rang out from the shattered darkness divine palace. The darkness divine palace had always been the underworld sect's greatest reliance. It was their greatest means of survival. Now, it had actually been split into two by the enemy's sword. Such terrifying divine might made Luo Qi tremble in fear. Honglian and Blackfish were also secretly stunned as they stared at the fallen divine hall. Although the two of them could still smash through the divine hall with the power of their origin energy weapons, they definitely could not do it as easily as Ruijin, cleaving the divine hall in half with a single strike. Ruijin, you should be breaking through soon. Honglian suddenly turned her head and stared at Ruijin. A red light flickered in her eyes, as if flames were leaping about. Ruijin put away the sacred dragon's sword and said indifferently, I've already touched on that barrier. I believe I can become a Saint Emperor in 50 years. Jianshan was surprised when he heard that, but he soon became overjoyed. He said excitedly, Senior Ruijin, you're about to become a holy emperor? Ruijin smiled when he saw how excited Jianshan was. He said, the reason why there are so few holy emperors in the world right now is none other than the lack of origin energy. My sacred dragon sword and sacred dragon's armor both contain origin energy, so breaking through to become a holy emperor obviously won't be a problem. It's the same for Honglian and Blackfish. All we lack is time. Jianshan sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. However, he was unable to suppress the joy in his heart, as if he could already see Ruijin and the other two becoming holy emperor in several decades. Boom! Boom! At this moment, two booms rang out nearby. The divine hall that had been cleaved in half by Ruijin could no longer remain airborne, so it fell into the desert. Countless black-robed assassins quickly charged out of the ruined divine hall, fleeing into the distance as quickly as they could. Don't let a single one of them escape. Kill! Jianshan's eyes turned cold. He immediately ordered the experts of the Bloodsword sect before using the illusory flash to arrive above the divine hall. The Emperor armament turned into a net of swords that enveloped the assassins who had just emerged from the divine hall, killing them in the blink of an eye. Vice sect leader Jiang Wang, the 5 elders, and the 4 protectors all moved to hunt down the fleeing assassins of the underworld sect. Although they were saint rulers and could not commit too many killings, they could not care less if they wanted to destroy the underworld sect in a single stroke. Even if they killed too many people and triggered celestial decay, it was built on the fact that they had killed hundreds of thousands or even more people. The underworld sect only had a few thousand people right now, and all of them were assassins whose hands were stained with blood. As saint rulers, they did not need to worry about celestial decay at all. The destruction of the underworld sect's greatest reliance, the Darkness Shrine, had also left a huge psychological shadow on the many assassins of the underworld sect. Their morale was low, and they no longer had the courage to fight. As soon as they rushed out of the shrine, they immediately fled as far as they could. Jiang Wang, the 5 elders, and the 4 protectors all unleashed their full strength to kill the fleeing assassins of the underworld sect. Below Saint Ruler, all of them were ants. Even Heaven Saint Masters were powerless before their Saint Ruler abilities. With a single thought, they could freeze a region of space, trapping several or even more assassins and killing them effortlessly. At this moment, more than 10 black-robed men dressed like the assassins of the underworld sect rushed out of the temple among the crowd. As soon as they arrived outside, their figures merged with the space and turned into a series of afterimages, escaping at an unbelievable speed. It's the saint rulers of the underworld sect. Don't let a single one of them escape. Jiang Wang bellowed out. He abandoned the immobilized Heaven Saint Masters that he had frozen in space and chased after a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. The 5 elders and 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect all abandoned the small fries in their hands and chased after the fleeing saint rulers of the underworld sect. Ruijin suddenly formed a seal with his hands and called out, "Secret technique of the Dragon Clan, Dragon's Domain." With that, A ring of golden light expanded from Ruijin and rapidly expanded. It expanded in all directions at an unbelievable speed, enveloping a radius of over 1,000 kilometers in the blink of an eye. Chapter 12:17. Ruijin's dragon's domain covered a radius of 1,000 kilometers. Only a few seconds had passed since the divine hall of the underworld sect had been destroyed, so even saint rulers would not be able to cross that distance in such a short amount of time. As a result, as soon as the dragon's domain formed, it enveloped all the assassins of the underworld sect. No one managed to escape. The vice-sect master of the Bloodsword sect, Jiang Wang, the 5 elders, and the 4 protectors all caught up to the saint ruler assassins of the underworld sect. They attacked without holding back at all. The saint rulers of the underworld sect all possessed darkness-attributed saint force. As soon as the battle began, they all erupted with a dense, black mist using a secret technique, enveloping a certain range of space. They silently moved through the black mist, constantly searching for good opportunities to launch sneak attacks on the experts of the Bloodsword sect. The saint rulers of the underworld sect mainly used darkness-attributed saint force to aid in their assassination, while the experts of the Bloodsword sect used baleful force as their trump card. They both had their own strengths. However, the people of the Bloodsword sect did not use baleful force in their battle. Baleful force could only be cultivated through slaughter, so it was far too precious to saint rulers. Even with that being the case, the experts of the Bloodsword sect still gained the upper hand because they were not affected by the dragon's domain at all. On the other hand, the saint rulers of the underworld sect were suppressed by the dragon's domain, so they struggled to use 70 to 80% of their strength. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jiang Wang, who was at the 3rd heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, casually struck the head of a saint ruler from the underworld sect. The saint ruler's head exploded on the spot, wiping out his soul. At the same time, a 9th heavenly layer elder of the Bloodsword sect killed a saint ruler from the underworld sect. A blood-red spike pierced the saint ruler's forehead and emerged from the back of his head. It pierced through his head, wiping out his soul before it could escape. Jianshun did not attack anymore. Instead, he stood with newbies and scanned the surroundings with a sharp gaze. He planned on leaving all the saint ruler assassins to Jiang Wang and the others. He could not be bothered to personally deal with the assassins below saint ruler. Strange, Jianshun, why don't I see the guy whose arm you cut off? Newbies crossed his arms as he hovered in the air beside Jianshun, his eyes constantly searching around. Jianshun frowned slightly. He had also been waiting for Luo Qi here, but until now, he had not discovered that Luo Qi had escaped from the shrine. Although the shrine was broken, the power of the shrine had not completely dissipated, so his consciousness was still unable to enter the shrine. Could it be that Luo Qi is still hiding in the shrine? Jianshun murmured to himself. Although several thousand similarly dressed assassins had charged out of the shrine, none of them could escape his eyes with the senses of his soul. Luo Qi was nowhere to be found. I'll go have a look inside the shrine, Jianshun said before directly flying into the shrine. Newbies followed him in as well. The shrine was filled with darkness. The darkness-attributed saint force that filled the place was extremely dense. To people who cultivated darkness-attributed saint force, they would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort if they cultivated here. However, since the shrine was broken, the darkness-attributed saint force that filled the shrine was slowly dispersing. Even the power within the shrine was rapidly draining away. Jianshun and newbies stood in the dark shrine. They both frowned slightly, because even the two of them were affected by the darkness. They could not see more than 5 meters. How can mere darkness-attributed saint force stump me, the great newbies? Newbies snorted coldly. Immediately, a dazzling golden light shone from his body, making him seem like a miniature sun in the dark shrine. The darkness-attributed saint force that flowed through the shrine dispersed as soon as it came in contact with the golden light. In the blink of an eye, the shrine that had been shrouded in darkness cleared up. This was a splendidly decorated hall. The hall was empty, with only a few expensive decorations. Jianshan directly ignored the decorations. He glanced around and said, Luo Qi must still be hiding in the shrine. Let's look around first. We can't let him escape, or there'll be endless problems. Rui Jin and the other two seniors are standing guard outside, so we don't need to worry about Luo Qi escaping from another part of the shrine after we enter. Jianshan and newbies began to search around the shrine. A small portion of the shrine's power remained on the walls, so Jianshan was unable to see through it with the senses of his soul. As a result, they could only search slowly. Along the way, Jianshan came across passageways that had suddenly appeared, as well as formations that hid the surroundings. However, they were all destroyed by him and newbies. The toughness of the Divine Hall and the formations hidden within were all supported by the power of the Divine Hall. Now that the power of the Divine Hall was gradually dispersing, both the formations and the sturdiness of the Divine Hall had greatly weakened. At this moment, in an extremely well-hidden secret room in the shrine, a person with a single arm and cloaked in black robes was with a short old man. The short old man was rather pale, but his eyes were brimming with life. Luo Qi, two people have already entered the shrine. They'll find this place before long. We need to leave as soon as possible, the short old man said emotionlessly with a deep voice. Old sect master, are we just going to leave the rest of the people in the underworld sect behind? Luo Qi asked with a hoarse voice. Since they can destroy the shrine in a single strike, they must have an expert at the same level as the Holy Emperor. Before an expert like that, I wouldn't be able to resist at all, not to mention that I've yet to recover from my injuries. This baleful force really is powerful. 1,000 years ago, my soul was injured by Houston's baleful force. Even after 1,000 years of recuperation, my soul still hasn't recovered, the short old man said coldly. His voice was filled with deep hatred. Old sect master, all the people from the Bloodsword sect are outside the shrine right now. There are also 3 terrifying magical beasts. They'll definitely discover us as soon as we leave. How are we supposed to leave? Luo Qi asked. I already know about the situation outside. An expert has already enveloped a radius of 1,000 kilometers with a supreme secret technique. We definitely can't leave. Fortunately, we still have a backup plan, or we might have died here today, the short old man said in a deep voice. Afterward, surging darkness attributed Saint Force poured into the ground from beneath his feet. Gradually, an extremely complicated formation appeared beneath their feet. This is a space gate. Old sect master, can we use a space gate to leave the shrine? Can't the space within the shrine be ripped open? Luo Qi asked in doubt. The short old man sneered with that. This isn't a space gate. It's an ancient teleportation formation. The sect master of the underworld sect obtained it by accident several tens of thousand years ago and cast it down here. It's all for the sake of preventing a destructive attack from our enemies in the future, allowing us to escape. At the same time, the teleportation formation will shatter once it's used, so we don't have to worry about being followed. Luo Qi rejoiced inside. He said, Old sect master, I'll go get the Saint Tier battle skill first before leaving. There's no time. The two of them aren't far from here. We need to leave immediately, or we won't be able to leave if they destroy the formation, said the short old man. The teleportation formation was activated very soon. With a violent ripple of space, Luo Qi and the short old man vanished as well. Several hundred meters away from the secret room, Jianshan and newbies were searching in this direction. The power of the shrine was much thinner than before, so Jianshan's soul could barely penetrate a few buildings. Just as Luo Qi and the short old man left through the teleportation formation, Jianshan's face changed. He suddenly sensed an extremely weak ripple of space with the senses of his soul, so he quickly ran in the direction of the ripple without any hesitation. Boom! Arriving at the location of the ripple of space, Jianshan smashed through the door of a secret room with a single stroke of his sword. Without the obstruction of the door, the ripple of space in the secret room became even more intense. However, there was no one in the secret room anymore. There was only a damaged formation on the ground. Jianshan sighed inside when he saw the formation. He said, We've come too late. Someone has already left through here. I never thought that they would be able to leave through a space gate in the Divine Hall. Newbies' face became rather sunken. He knew extremely well what it meant for a holy emperor of the fifth heavenly layer to escape. It would be an extremely troublesome matter if this person decided to take revenge regardless of the consequences, not to mention that this person was an assassin of the holy emperor who was skilled at assassination. Jianshan, what do we do? Newbies' expression was very ugly. His relationship with Jianshan had already developed to that of a close friend, so he obviously treated Jianshan's matters as his own. Jianshan furrowed his brows in thought before relaxing. His greatest worry was Changyang Prefecture and his friends in the Flame Mercenaries. However, Changyang Prefecture had Changyang Zuxiao, who was comparable to the Holy Emperor at great perfection. It could be said that the entire kingdom of Jessin was impregnable. As for the Flame Mercenaries, he planned to ask Ruijin, "Hey you," and "Hey you," or "You be fine as well." As long as he placed the bright Moon Divine Hall in the Flame Mercenaries, he would not need to worry about Bai Lian and the others. Afterwards, Jianshan and newbies searched through the Divine Hall. Very soon, they found a huge stone slab embedded in the wall of a secret room. To Jianshan's surprise, it was actually a complete Saint Tier battle skill. Jianshan began to collect the Saint Tier battle skill without any hesitation. After expending a tremendous amount of effort, he finally removed the huge slab. Although the slab was only 5 meters long, it was extraordinarily heavy. It was countless times heavier than steel, so even with Jianshan's strength, he needed to expend quite a lot of effort to lift it. The Saint Tier battle skill on the slab was a fist technique, so it did not suit Jianshan. At the same time, the path that Jianshan walked was different from the cultivators of the Tian Yuan continent. Chapter 12:18. After taking away the Saint Tier battle skill, Jianshan and newbies searched through the Divine Hall again. Unfortunately, they did not find anything else. However, Jianshan was already very satisfied. After all, a complete Saint Tier battle skill was the greatest harvest. Jianshan and newbies emerged from the Divine Hall and returned to Ruijin's side. They saw that the experts of the Bloodsword sect had already been waiting there for quite some time. They had already killed off the several thousand assassins from the Underworld sect. Sect Master, why don't I see Luo Qi? And the Sect Master of the Underworld sect, Guzhan, I also suspect that he's still alive. He's probably still hiding in the Divine Hall, Jiang Wang said respectfully. Jiang Wang asked in a respectful tone. He was surprised that he didn't see Luo Qi's corpse. They've escaped. I never thought that they'd hide a space gate in the Divine Hall, Jianshan said with some pity. Ruijin frowned slightly when he heard that. Spatial gates can't be formed at all in my dragon dimension, so how could they have possibly used them to flee? I'll go check where they set up the space gate. With that, Ruijin directly entered the dilapidated Divine Hall. Jianshan and the others followed behind him. Ruijin, Honglian, Blackfish, and Jianshan all stood around the room in which Luo Qi and the old man had fled. They studied the formation on the ground. This isn't a space gate. Honglian stared at the formation on the ground and discovered that something was wrong very soon. Although a fixed space gate seemed rather similar to the formation on the ground, there was an extremely clear difference between the two. Correct, this isn't a space gate. It's an ancient teleportation formation. I never thought that something like this would still exist. No wonder they could escape from my dragon's domain, Ruijin said. An ancient teleportation formation, Jianshan murmured. His face was filled with curiosity. Even Jiang Wang and newbies became doubtful. Ruijin explained, I found the information about ancient teleportation formations in my inherited memories. These teleportation formations have only appeared in ancient times. They're extremely valuable because not only do they have the same function as space gates, which can teleport a certain number of people or items to another place, but they don't have to worry about the effects of space at all. They can be used even in heavily distorted space or shattered space. They can teleport extremely far away, and they can break through all spatial obstructions. They're much more powerful than space gates. However, according to the records in my inherited memories, these teleportation formations were extremely rare even in ancient times. No one knew where they came from, and no one could create them. This is because the requirements to create a teleportation formation are extremely high. First of all, one needs to have reached the pinnacle of formations. Secondly, one needs to have an extremely high comprehension of space. No one has been able to fulfill these two conditions in ancient times, especially when it comes to comprehension of space. Even experts like the Holy Emperor are nowhere close to achieving that. The teleportation formations that appeared in ancient times seem to appear out of thin air. Every time one is used, one is gone. I never thought that I would actually see one here today. I never thought that the Underworld sect would be able to obtain such a valuable ancient teleportation formation. Looks like they're not fated to die today. Jianshun could sense that ever since he learned about the ancient teleportation formation, he knew that he could not stop them from leaving today. The sect master of the Underworld sect from 1,000 years ago, Guzhun, is most likely still alive. It looks like he left with Luo Qi. I wonder if Guzhun has fully recovered from his injuries or if his strength has improved. 1,000 years ago, Guzhun was a holy emperor at the 8th heavenly layer. If he fully recovers, he'll be a problem, Jiang Wang said worriedly. Vice sect master, there's no need to worry. Uncle Xiao has given the Blood Divine Hall to me. I'll give it to you later. With the Blood Divine Hall, even if the sect master fully recovers, he won't be able to do anything to you, Jianshun said. Afterwards, Jianshun's group did not stay for long. They left the desert very soon. The several thousand space rings that they had plundered from the assassins were all given to Jianshun. However, Jianshun only went through them in a hurry. Seeing that there was nothing he needed, he gave them all to Jiang Wang to deal with. Although there was quite a lot of money in the space rings, money no longer had much meaning to Jianshun. Jianshun did not return to the Bloodsword sect's encampment. He gave the Blood Divine Hall that Uncle Xiao had given him to Vice Sect Master Jiang Wang before returning to Changyang Prefecture with Ruijin and the others. Since they had confirmed that at least 2 holy emperors had escaped from the Underworld sect, the Bloodsword sect needed to be prepared to protect themselves. Right now, Jiang Wang was the only holy emperor in the sect, and he was at the 3rd heavenly layer. He was not the opponent of the holy emperor who had escaped from the Underworld sect. As a result, leaving the Divine Hall to Jiang Wang could prevent Luo Qi and Guzhun from taking revenge. After returning to Changyang Prefecture, Jianshun thought about it. In the end, he decided to call Yu Yu over to the Flame Mercenaries for a while. Yu Yu's strength was still lacking, but considering that Yu Yu had a powerful master, it would clearly be safer. Ruijin and the others had already helped him enough during this period of time, so Jianshun really could not bring himself to call Ruijin and the others over to the Flame Mercenaries. Jianshun had also sent out all the spies of the Bloodsword sect to search for the experts who had escaped from the Underworld sect. Although Jianshun knew that it was basically a waste of effort, he was unwilling to give up even if there was a sliver of hope. He would not be able to rest until the Holy Emperor who had escaped from the Underworld sect was killed. In the past 2 days, the hottest topic on the Tianyuan continent was the Bloodsword sect. The Bloodsword sect that had vanished for 1,000 years had actually reappeared on the Tianyuan continent. Not only did it attract the attention of many organizations, but it also did something that shocked countless people. The secret bases of the Underworld sect scattered across the continent were found one by the Bloodsword sect before being massacred. Not long after this matter, an even more shocking piece of news swept through the continent in an extremely short amount of time. The Underworld sect, one of the 3 great assassin organizations that had existed for over 100,000 years, had actually been destroyed by the Bloodsword sect, shocking countless people. The disturbance caused by this matter was so great that it even alarmed Mercenary City and the 3 empires. After all, the Bloodsword sect was a great organization that was no weaker than an ancient clan. Coupled with Houston, who was at great perfection as the Holy Emperor, they were supreme existences even among ancient clans. It was impossible for such a great organization to not cause a stir when they suddenly returned. Jianshun did not pay attention to the disturbance the Bloodsword sect had caused on the Tianyuan continent as he remained in the Changyang Prefecture. He currently sat in a pavilion in the garden with his aunt. Yu Fengyin's eyes were red and swollen while her face was covered in tears. She constantly wiped away her tears with a handkerchief in her hand. She had already missed her daughter for many years. Ever since Chanyang Mingwe had returned once when Jianshan had been forced to leave the Tian Yuan continent, there had not been any news from her for so many years. This made Yu Fengyin extremely worried, as she only had one daughter. She basically thought about her daughter all the time. She had become much more haggard after all these years of longing. In particular, Yu Fengyin's longing for her daughter had reached an unprecedented level after Chanyang's return. She finally could not help but confide Jianshan. Xiangtian, second aunt knows that you're now a peerless expert whose name shakes the entire continent. However, second aunt misses Mingyu so much. Can you take your aunt to see Mingyu? Chapter 12:19. Jianshan felt rather sad when he saw how sorrowful Yu Fengyin was. Yu Fengyin held an extremely important position in his heart. Her status was even higher than his father, Changyang Ba. This was because when he was young, the only person who cared about him the most in Chanyang Prefecture was his aunt, Yu Fengyin, other than his mother. Even his father, Changyang Ba, did not care for him as much as Yu Fengyin, especially after the Saint Force test. When Jianshan was found to be unable to cultivate Saint Force and was a cripple, Changyang Ba rarely visited him. Back then, the only people who cared about him in Chanyang Prefecture were Bai Yintian, Yu Fengyin, and Chanyang Mingwe. Jianshan could clearly sense Yu Fengyin's feelings and the helplessness hidden within when he saw how sorrowful Yu Fengyin was. Ignoring the fact that the Ice Goddess Hall was not even on the Tian Yuan continent and was extremely far away, just the frigid climate, there was enough to prevent Heaven Saint Masters from approaching. Otherwise, even a Heaven Saint Master with fire-attributed Saint Force would be frozen into a popsicle. Only Saint Rulers could survive there. Although there were over a dozen Saint Rulers and several Holy Emperors in Chanyang Prefecture, all of them possessed great statuses. Even the Patriarch of Chanyang Prefecture, Chanyang Ba, needed to politely greet them when he saw them, let alone Yu Fengyin, who was only his wife. On the surface, Yu Fengyin was the second madam of Chanyang Prefecture. She possessed a great status, but she was nothing before the people who had separated from the Protector clans. Without a doubt, asking the Saint Rulers of Chanyang Prefecture to take her to the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall with her current status was impossible. She did not even have the right to see a Saint Ruler. As a result, Yu Fengyin could only ask for help from Jianshan. Yu Fengyin had already begun to treat Jianshan as her savior, her only hope of seeing her daughter again. Jianshan sank into his thoughts. Although some people had escaped from the underworld sect, including a sect master who was even more powerful than Luo Qi, it was not like he could not stop them with his current strength. At the same time, he really did miss Chanyang Mingwe a little after not seeing her in such a long time. Jianshan made up his mind when he thought of that. He said, "Aunt, don't be too sad. I'll make some arrangements later and take you to the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall to find her." "Really? Xiangtian, are you really going to take me to see Mingwe?" Yu Fengyin was overjoyed. She grabbed Jianshan's hand excitedly. She knew that if Jianshan did not agree, she would probably never be able to see Chanyang Mingwe again unless she came back herself. Jianshan nodded. "Of course. Aunt, rest for a while first. I'll go make some arrangements right away, and then I'll take you to the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall to find her." Jianshan left the garden and made his way to the back of Chanyang Prefecture. The back of Chanyang Prefecture had already become a forbidden zone of the Chanyang Prefecture. No guards were allowed to approach it. Even the Patriarch of the Chanyang Prefecture and other important figures were forbidden from entering without a notice, because this was where Chanyang Zushao cultivated. Other than Chanyang Zushao, even Chanyang Xianshao, Chanyang Ziyun, and over a dozen Saint Rulers who had left the Protector clans were gathered there. The people guarding the Forbidden Zone had all been replaced by the Heaven Saint Masters who had left the Protector clans. As soon as he approached the back of Chanyang Prefecture, Jianshan saw 4 Heaven Saint Masters sitting on the ground, guarding the entrance. The surroundings were silent. As soon as Jianshan arrived, the 4 Heaven Saint Masters opened their eyes at the same time. When they recognized Jianshan, They immediately stood up and politely bowed to him. Even the patriarch of Chanyang Prefecture, Chanyangba, needed to make a report when he set foot in the back of Chanyang Prefecture. However, Jinshin did not need to. He could enter and leave at any time, and no one dared to stop him. Jinshin nodded at the Heaven Saint Masters in a friendly manner before entering the back, without any obstructions. He had never seen the 4 Heaven Saint Masters before, but he knew that they belonged to the Zhu branch of the Protector clans. They had come with Chanyang Zhu Xiao and the others. Jinshin had already known that the back of Chanyang Prefecture had been designated as a forbidden zone. Not only did he not object to it, but he even approved of it. After all, the people who lived there were led by Chanyang Zhu Xiao and Chanyang Zhu Yin Xiao, not to mention that Chanyang Zhu Xiao was a supreme expert who had almost reached great perfection as the Holy Emperor. Most importantly, Chanyang Zhu Xiao and Chanyang Zhu Yunkong had left the Protector clans because they had stood up for him. As a result, Jinshin did not have any deep feelings for the two of them, but he respected them from the bottom of his heart. Jinshin saw Chanyang Zhu Xiao in an extremely simple hall. Chanyang Zhu Xiao's hair was white, and he seemed even older than when he had been in the Protector clan. He seemed rather haggard as well. Clearly, leaving the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture had caused some trauma to Chanyang Zhu Xiao's heart. After all, it was his home that he had lived in for several thousand years, so he had extremely deep feelings for it. Jinshin first bowed to Chanyang Zhu Xiao as a junior before explaining why he had come. He had come to find Chanyang Zhu Xiao this time to make sure that the Holy Emperor of the Underworld sect would not do anything to harm Chanyang Prefecture. Xianger, you don't need to worry about this. I may not be able to discover the Holy Emperor who has infiltrated the kingdom of Jessen, but if a Holy Emperor enters this tiny city, he won't be able to escape my senses. The secret techniques of the Protector clans that have been passed down since ancient times are not so simple. However, if the Holy Emperor of the Underworld sect decides to assassinate someone, I can only protect this city. I can't do anything about the imperial family of this small kingdom. Considering that your fiancée is a member of the imperial family and is the daughter of the king, you should have Yun Xiao watch over the imperial family. Although Yun Xiao is only at the 5th heavenly layer, he knows many secret techniques and abilities. Regular holy emperors are not his opponent in battle, Chanyang Zhu Xiao said with a smile. Chanyang Zhu Xiao said amiably. He valued this great-grandson of his very much, so he would always stand by Jinshin's side and think for Jinshin's sake. Jinshin completely stopped worrying when he heard that. After a moment of hesitation, he asked, "Great-grandfather, may I ask how much you know about the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall?" Chanyang Zhu Xiao frowned slightly when he heard the mention of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. After a moment of silence, he said, "Everything I know about the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall comes from the ancient records of my clan. The records all come from ancient times, and they're all manuscripts left behind by my ancestor, the Holy Emperor. I only know that the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall is extremely powerful. Even the 4 sovereigns who surpassed the Holy Emperor in ancient times have never set foot in the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. No one knows when the Ice Goddess Hall appeared, but it never interferes with the matters of the Tian-Yuan continent. It has never appeared on the Tian-Yuan continent either. As a matter of fact, no one on the Tian-Yuan continent knows about the existence of the Ice Goddess Hall aside from the Protector clans and Mercenary City. The sudden appearance of the Ice Goddess Hall over a decade ago was the first time in a million years. This time, it has been recorded by the Protector clans." Chanyang Zhu Xiao suddenly stared at Jinshin sternly. He said with a heavy voice, "Xianger, do you want to go to the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall?" "That's right. My sister is in the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. I want to go see her." Jinshin did not deny it. Chanyang Zhu Xiao fell silent for a while before heavily replying, "I've never been to the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall before, but I do know that it's extremely terrifying because the records left behind by the Holy Emperor have warned the juniors more than once to never offend the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall or try to find it. There must be an extremely terrifying person in the Ice Goddess Hall, but after so many years, the person who even the Holy Emperor feared must have died long ago. Even if that's the case, I still hope that you can seriously consider it and avoid it as much as possible. Since the Ice Goddess Hall is so mysterious and powerful at the same time, why did they make my sister the Holy Maiden? I don't know if there's some scheme behind this. However, there's one thing that great-grandfather was right about. After so many years, even if there really is someone powerful in the Ice Goddess Hall, they must have died. Even if they've surpassed the Holy Emperor, it's impossible for them to live for so long. As a result, the Ice Goddess Hall is probably not as terrifying as before. So, I must go, Jianshan said. Since you've already made up your mind, I won't stop you. However, you must be careful. Chanyang Zuxiao knew that he could not persuade Jianshan otherwise, so he just stopped trying. Chapter 1220. The Arctic was to the north of the Tian-Yuan continent. It was a region that did not belong to the Tian-Yuan continent, separated by a vast ocean. The climate there was frigid, and the environment was terrible. Snowstorms would erupt from time to time, and even Heaven's Saint Masters would not be able to avoid them. At the same time, a visible white gas filled the sky, flying past from time to time and leaving behind white streaks in the air. This was a terrifying stream of cold that was extremely active in the Arctic. It was said that even steel would be frozen into ice. The space in the Arctic was extremely unstable, so space gates were unable to connect to the icy plains. Jianshan brought you Fengyan, newbies, Ruijin, Honglian, and black fish through a space gate and arrived at the ocean near the Arctic before flying toward the icy plains that could be vaguely seen. Although they had not set foot on the icy plains, the climate there was extremely cold. The sky was white while the water was bone-chillingly cold. Huge pieces of ice floated in the air. Jianshan and the others had all reached the level of Holy Emperor, so the cold that could freeze ordinary people into popsicles did not affect them at all. Only the weaker Yu Fengyan's lips had turned white from the cold. Although she wore a thick set of snowy fox feathers, she still shivered from the cold. However, Yu Fengyan was filled with excitement, even though that was the case. As soon as she thought about how she would be able to see her daughter, Changyang Mingwei, she felt warm inside. She was willing to suffer any hardship. They set foot on the icy plains very soon. The temperature there was even lower. The cold wind whistled through the icy plains like sharp blades. Even with their strength as Holy Emperor, they still felt their skin ache. The cold wind there could easily cut Earth's Saint Masters into mincemeat. Ordinary people would not be able to survive. Crack! Crack! With a gentle sound, the clothes of Jianshan, newbies, Ruijin, and black fish rapidly froze. In just a few seconds, they had become snow-white, covered in a thin layer of ice. The next moment, the four of them gently trembled, easily dispersing the ice and snow on them. Their faces remained the same as before, completely ignoring the cold. Yu Fengyan had already arrived beside Honglian. Waves of heat radiated from Honglian, causing the streams of coldness to turn into nothingness before they could even approach Honglian. "Senior Honglian, please take care of my aunt," Jianshan said to Honglian. Honglian was a scorching divine phoenix, the sovereign of fire. With her by her side, even an ordinary person like Yu Fengyan would not be harmed. Honglian nodded slightly. She pulled Yu Fengyan with one hand as they advanced through the icy plains. The waves of heat from her were warm and gentle. Not only did they not harm Yu Fengyan, but they even made her feel like she was bathing in sunlight. They flew at a low altitude over the hazy, icy plains, directly heading to the depths. As they ventured deeper, the temperature became colder and colder. The frigid winds could threaten Heaven's Saint Masters, unless they were fire-attributed Heaven's Saint Masters. Even 6-cycle Heaven Saint Masters would be cut to pieces by the frigid winds that were as sharp as blades. White streams of coldness would sweep across the icy plains from time to time, turning a Heaven Saint Master into a popsicle in a single moment. They flew through the Arctic icy plains for 7 days before officially entering the depths. The coldness forced Jianshan and newbies to face it head-on. A faint layer of energy enveloped them, while Ruijin and black fish constantly formed 3-inch thick ice crystals on their bodies before shattering them. In just a few seconds, they would be covered by another 3-inch thick layer of ice before shattering it again. This repeated for several days. Yu Fengyan was enveloped by a layer of flames, so she was not affected at all. After arriving in the depths of the icy plains, just the waves of heat from Honglian were no longer enough to fend off the cold streams. At this moment, the icy plains suddenly began to violently gust with a ghostly wail. A large, white stream of coldness shot toward Jinshan's group from up ahead. "Be careful," Jinshan called out and immediately used the illusory flash to dodge. Newbies, Ruijin, and Blackfish did not dare to be careless either. They all began to dodge the white stream of coldness. Red Lotus let out a low roar, and the flames on her body soared into the sky. The blazing flames emitted a terrifyingly high temperature that enveloped her and Yu Fengyan. This kind of temperature could melt steel in a breath's time, but could only protect a 1-meter radius around them. Honglian's control over fire had already reached the acme of perfection. She could control the temperature of the flames as she wished. Yu Fengyan did not feel the heat at all when the terrifying flames enveloped her. Instead, she felt extremely warm and was unable to harm her at all. The wave of coldness passed very quickly. Jinshan, Blackfish, and Ruijin successfully dodged it. However, Newbies was struck by the final stream of coldness. Although the stream of coldness was only the size of a fist, it possessed unbelievable power. Newbies was instantly frozen into a popsicle after being struck by the fist-sized white stream of coldness. A powerful golden light radiated from Newbies' body. The frozen Newbies was unable to move at all and was currently attacking the popsicle with all his might. The popsicle let out a slight cracking sound. Even with the strength of the holy Emperor Newbies of the third celestial layer, he was actually unable to shatter the ice in a short amount of time. Jinshan took a step forward and arrived before Newbies in an instant. He directly punched the popsicle. With a muffled sound, Jinshan's full-powered punch actually failed to shatter the popsicle. Only a small crack appeared on it. Jinshan's expression did not change. He had already experienced the power of the coldness in the depths of the ice field. Without saying anything, he immediately threw a second punch. Bam! With a muffled sound, the crack on Newbies' popsicle expanded once more and spread out like a spiderweb. Jinshan threw a third punch. After 3 punches, the ice that froze Newbies finally shattered under the cooperation of the two. Newbies, who had regained his freedom, emitted a cold aura. His face was already pale from the cold. He couldn't help but shiver and say, "So cold. The great Newbies, am going to die from the cold. Be careful. Next time don't move and get frozen. The coldness in this place is too terrifying." If it was an ordinary holy emperor at the third celestial layer, without help from the outside, they wouldn't be able to break free from the bindings of the ice at all. They would only be frozen to death. Jinshan's expression was very serious. The Arctic ice field was far more terrifying than what he had expected. Right now, their current location was already dangerous enough to threaten the Holy Emperor. Everyone advanced once more. For hours later, they had advanced another 1,000 kilometers. None of them could resist the coldness with just their bodies. A barrier of energy appeared around all of them. They were much more careful now. Even Ruijin's trio did not dare to be careless. Jinshan was even prepared to send Yu Fengyan into the artifact space at any time. This was because the dangers here were already enough to threaten them. After crossing an iceberg, Jinshan's group narrowed their eyes. 1,000 meters in front of them, several human-shaped ice sculptures appeared before their eyes. The group arrived in front of the human-shaped ice sculptures. The ice sculptures were very lifelike, and they could clearly see the faces of the human-shaped ice sculptures. Each ice sculpture was making different movements, and one of the human-shaped ice sculptures had a clear look of fear in its eyes. In addition, each of the ice sculptures here faintly emitted a pressure that made one tremble in fear. Ruijin, Honglian, Blackfish, Jinshan, and Newbies gradually became stern. They were all stern. With their knowledge, they could obviously tell that the ice sculptures were not made from ice. Instead, They were living people that had been frozen. These people were all experts of the Holy Emperor when they were alive. Ruijin said with a heavy voice. He was extremely stern. The Holy Emperor was already in existence that stood at the apex of the Tian Yuan continent, yet such a powerful figure had actually been frozen. This was an extremely great shock to them. Their strength when they were alive was even greater than the Holy Emperor. No, they're even more powerful than human sacred grounds, Honglian said with a heavy voice. The Holy Emperor she was referring to was naturally the Path Lord of carnal desires. Jianchun shivered inside. He had already known that the Ice Goddess Hall was very powerful. He had even placed them in an extremely terrifying position. However, only now did he discover that they were still far more terrifying than he had imagined. There's more up ahead. Newbies cried out as he pointed ahead in disbelief. With that, everyone turned around and saw 5 huge magical beasts appear 10 kilometers away. They had also been frozen into lifelike ice sculptures. Chapter 12:21. The group then arrived in front of the Class 9 magical beasts that had been frozen into ice sculptures. These Class 9 magical beasts were extremely large. Up close, they looked like buildings. 3 of the magical beasts looked like tigers or leopards. They were 10 meters tall and 50 to 60 meters long. The 4th one was a giant python with 2 heads. Its coiled body was 3 meters thick. The 5th magical beast was a mutated beast of antiquity that they did not know the name of. Its 2 huge wings were unfurled, covering a radius of several hundred meters. The last magical beast was a 100-meter-tall war behemoth. It carried a large white bone club on its shoulder. Although it had been frozen into an ice sculpture, a wild aura could still be felt from its body. Jianshun and newbies looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock. They had already been shocked when they saw the frozen humans, but they had never thought that there would be 6 more frozen Class 9 magical beasts. Class 9 magical beasts were peak experts on the same level as Saint Emperors. Even in ancient times, Class 9, magical beasts, and Saint Emperors were existences that stood at the apex of the pyramid aside from the 4 experts who had surpassed Saint Emperor. They dominated an entire region. Yet, so many Holy Emperor and Class 9 magical beasts had actually been frozen to death on the icy plains. This was an extremely great shock to Jianshun and the others. Since when had the Holy Emperor become so weak? They had actually died from a cold. If this matter made its way to the Tian Yuan continent, it would definitely be explosive news. It would be enough to shake up all the experts on the continent. However, this also reflected the terror and power of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. The Holy Emperor is a peak expert on the Tian Yuan continent. No matter what their status was before they died, they should be treated with respect. I'll go retrieve the bodies of the Holy Emperor and bring them back to the Tian Yuan continent for a proper burial, Jianshun said in a sorrowful voice. He also felt sorrow for the miserable fates of the Holy Emperor. The mighty Holy Emperor had actually been frozen to death in a world of ice and snow. Probably not many people had suffered such a miserable fate throughout history. Jianshun arrived before the ice statues of the Holy Emperor. He wanted to collect the bodies into his space ring and bring them back to the Tian Yuan continent for a proper burial. Unfortunately, the ice on the Holy Emperor had already fused with the ground, so he could not remove them. Without any hesitation, Jianshun pulled out his Emperor armament and swung at the ground. The toughness of the ice far exceeded what Jianshun had imagined. He only managed to create a shallow crack after swinging his sword a few times as hard as he could. After swinging his sword over 100 times, the ice around the Holy Emperor finally separated from the ground. However, at this moment, a series of cracking sounds rang out. A crack suddenly appeared on the ice around the Holy Emperor. It expanded at an unbelievable rate, covering his entire body in just a few seconds. Bang! With a gentle sound, the body of the Holy Emperor shattered. There was no blood. His body had been reduced to a pile of ice. Jianshun was stunned. He stared blankly at the Holy Emperor who had been reduced to a pile of ice. He could not help but sigh inside. A mighty Holy Emperor had actually ended up like this in the end. Jianshun did not touch the bodies of the other Holy Emperor. He returned to the ice statues of the class 9 magical beasts. After a moment of hesitation, he directly leapt up and swung his sword at the head of one of the magical beasts. After several dozen swings, Jianshun finally cut off the head of the magical beast. As soon as the head, which was the size of a water tank, fell onto the ice, it shattered with a thump, turning into a pile of ice. Crack! 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 In the next moment, cracks rapidly spread across the headless body. Very soon, the enormous body of the magical beast was reduced to a pile of ice as well. Jianshun searched through the ice for a while, but did not find a complete Class 9 magical core. He only found a few fragments of the magical core that had also been reduced to ice. The energy within them had completely dissipated. They were no longer of any use. Jianshun was disappointed. He already knew that the frozen Class 9 magical beasts were of no value. Not only that, their bodies were the same as the human Holy Emperors. Otherwise, they would all shatter into a pile of ice. Even their space rings were the same. These Holy Emperors and Class 9 magical beast bodies have been dead for far too long. Their bodies have been completely assimilated by the ice and snow here. Their flesh and blood have all turned into ice. Ruijin sighed softly. His heart was heavy. They've been dead for several 100,000 years at the very least, Newbie said. Let's keep going, Jianshun called out to everyone. He ignored the ice statues and continued onward. As they ventured deeper, they discovered many more ice statues, humans, beasts, and beasts. However, all of them were at the level of Holy Emperor without any exception. None of them were below the level of Holy Emperor. This place is far too terrifying. We've already discovered over 30 Holy Emperors and Class 9 magical beast frozen bodies. Newbie's voice trembled slightly. He had already developed a sliver of fear towards this place. This place was basically the burial ground of Holy Emperor experts. An hour later, they traveled another 500 kilometers. The temperature had dropped even lower now. Jianshun and Newbies were already doing their best to fend off the cold. Jianshun had also sent Yu Fengyan into the artifact space. Even Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu had donned their origin energy armor. There's another fallen expert here. Newbies pointed up ahead. It was an extremely burly man who sat on the ice. His eyes were closed, and he had lost all signs of life long ago. There's another line of words here, Jianshun said softly. Beside the man was a line of words carved into the ice. This king is Erton. I am invincible across the world. I have been alone for several hundred years, unable to break through to the origin realm from the Holy Emperor level. I learned about the mysterious ice goddess hall from ancient records, so I came in search of it. However, I was frozen to death before I could even see it. This king refuses to accept this. This king refuses to accept this. Chapter 1222. Jianshun was shocked when he heard that. He carefully studied the frozen middle-aged man again and felt extremely shocked. Even the ruler of the beast god continent, Erton, who had reached the peak of Holy Emperor and was only a step away from Holy Emperor Peerless Origin Realm, had been frozen to death here. Jianshun was even more shocked by this than when he had seen the statues of over 30 Holy Emperors and Class 9 magical beasts. Peak Holy Emperors were far more powerful than regular Holy Emperors. The difference was like the difference between a 9th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler and a 1st Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. The difference between a Great Perfection Holy Emperor and a Great Perfection Holy Emperor. Although they were at the same level of cultivation, the difference in strength was extremely great. Not only was Erton a peak Holy Emperor expert, but he was also a beast of antiquity. His battle prowess far surpassed peak Holy Emperor human experts. It would not even be an exaggeration to call him the strongest below the origin realm. However, even someone as powerful as Erton had been frozen to death. Not only did Jianshun and Newbie shiver inside, but even Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish felt the same. 500,000 years ago, Erton was invincible. No one could do anything to him. Yet he was actually sent to his death on the icy plains. He did not die in battle. This place is just too terrifying, Newbie said in shock. Newbie said in shock. He shivered inside. After seeing Erton's corpse, his fear of the icy plains became even more intense. It was not just newbies. Even Jinshin felt a sliver of fear. The icy plains were just too terrifying. Just the cold was enough to freeze a holy emperor to death. It was no wonder that the ancestor of the Protector clans, the Holy Emperor, feared the ice goddess Hall so much. Ruei-jin, Honglian, and Black Fish looked at each other. They became extremely stern. Even when they faced a holy emperor, they did not show such a stern expression. Newbies bowed deeply at Erton's corpse before continuing on with Jinshin and the others. They did not touch Erton's body. They did not even touch the space ring on Erton's finger. With their previous experience, they knew that after so many years, both Erton's body and the space ring had been assimilated by the ice here. Once the layer of ice on Erton's body was destroyed, the space ring would be destroyed. If they destroyed the surface of the ice, Erton's entire body and space ring would be reduced to a pile of shards. Everyone's hearts became very heavy when they saw Erton's fate. They remained silent for the rest of the journey. They maintained a straight line as they continued on. After traveling 100 kilometers, Newbies, who was the weakest, could no longer last any longer. He was sent back into the artifact space by Jinshin. If it were not for the fact that Jinshin possessed the chaotic body and cultivated chaotic force, he probably would not have been able to last until now. The coldness there had reached an extremely terrifying level. It could even freeze the saint force of a holy emperor. Ruei-jin, Heiyu, and Heiyu were only able to travel so easily because of their supreme strength and the protection of their origin energy armor. However, Jinshin and the others also knew that the coldness there was far too weak compared to several 100,000 years ago. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to travel any further than Erton with the strength of their holy emperor. They would have been reduced to lifelike statues before they even saw the holy emperor statues. Afterwards, they advanced for another half a day. However, the 5 of them had only advanced 250 kilometers during that time. In the end, they were blocked by a boundless cold mist. The cold mist was like a natural barrier, blocking their path forward. This mist is not simple. The 4 of them stopped. Honglian stared at the mist up ahead and said with a deep voice, "It did not make sense for mist to exist in such a terrifyingly cold environment. Mist was formed from water, but it was impossible for water to exist in this place because all the water had been frozen into ice that was tougher than steel. You stay here for now. I'll go in and have a look," said Heiyu. Her flames swelled as the scorching godfire hairpin appeared in her hand. She then carefully made her way into the region of cold mist. As soon as Honglian set foot in the mist, her flames came in contact with the mist and immediately produced hissing sounds. However, the mist was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Honglian lasted for less than a second before the flames around her were completely suppressed by the mist. In the second breath, the flames were completely suppressed by the mist. The mist rapidly approached the surface of Honglian's body, causing her fire-red wings to become covered in a thin layer of white ice. Honglian was shocked. She already knew that the cold mist was not simple, but she did not expect it to be so terrifying. She no longer stayed behind. Immediately, a white flame surged out from the raging flame's godfire heavenly hairpin and enveloped her in a flash. The white flames were incomparable to the red flames. As soon as the white flames appeared, they immediately melted the ice on Honglian's body. Even the mist in the surroundings was forced back by 10 meters. Honglian let out a sigh of relief. Afterwards, she used the scorching godfire hairpin to protect herself as she carefully advanced. However, the coldness would double with every centimeter of the mist. When Honglian took her first step, the mist that had been forced back by the white flames had shrunk to 2.5 feet. When she took her second step, the mist had already shrunk to 2 feet. When she took her third step, the mist had shrunk to 1.5 feet. When she took her fourth step, the mist was only a foot away from Honglian. Honglian gently sighed as she stared at the white mist that seemed to have no end. She carefully retreated. She knew that if she took her fifth step, The mist would approach her and freeze her into an ice statue. Even with the scorching godfire hairpin, she would not be able to protect herself. You must have seen it as well. The mist is even more terrifying than we imagined it to be. Even I can only take a few steps. We can't pass through it at all. Honglian said, rather dejectedly. She was the sovereign of fire, so she was able to counter the ice. However, when she drew out her origin energy weapon, she could not even pass through the mist. She was unable to cheer up at all. Jianchen frowned. He had obviously seen how terrifying the mist was, but it was like a barrier that blocked their path. It was boundless. If they could not pass through it, they would have to stop here, let alone find the ice goddess hall. At the same time, in a secret room made of ice, a woman who looked to be about 20 years old was sitting cross-legged on a piece of white mysterious ice and cultivating. The woman was extremely beautiful. She was so beautiful that she outshone the moon and flowers. Her entire body was snow white. Not only was her hair white, but even her eyebrows and eyelashes were white. The woman was the second young lady of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Mingyue, who had left many years ago. Suddenly, Changyang Mingyue opened her eyes. Her face was filled with joy as she excitedly said, "Brother, it's my brother. I can see him." With that, Changyang Mingyue leapt off the profound ice and quickly ran out of the room as a white blur. This was a room completely composed of ice and snow. All the decorations in the room were condensed from ice crystals. They were crystal clear and very beautiful. Although this room was very beautifully decorated, it was snow white. Other than white, there was only white. Moreover, the temperature in the room had reached an inconceivable level. Compared to the temperature in the room, an ice cavern that had lasted for 10,000 years was like a volcano. And on an ice bed in this room, a person wearing silver-white armor was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Her armor covered her entire body as she sat on the bed. Only her eyes were exposed, so her appearance was impossible to see. At this moment, the door to the room was violently pushed open. Changyang Mingyue ran in with her bare feet in joy. She hurriedly said, "Protector Shui, I can see my brother. I can see my brother. My brother has come over. He's currently blocked by the profound ice chi. Let him in quickly." Changyang Mingyue's voice was filled with excitement. Perhaps it was because she was too happy, but a faint blush appeared on her pale face. Protector Shui slowly opened her eyes. She could not help but gently sigh when she saw how excited Changyang Mingyue was. She said, "Your Majesty, are you still unable to forget them?" Protector Shui did not just refer to Jianshan by them. She also referred to all the people related to Changyang Mingyue in Changyang Prefecture. Changyang Mingyue became furious and said, "Protector Shui, I can't forget my brother. He will always be my brother. Let him in quickly." Chapter 1223. Jianshan and Ruijin remained outside the white mist for quite some time. They all frowned, but none of them, including Ruijin, were able to do anything about the terrifying mist. During that time, Ruijin and Honglian had used secret techniques several times, but they were all useless. Even the senses of Jianshan's soul were unable to penetrate the mist. As soon as his soul entered the mist, an extremely powerful coldness attacked his head along with the senses of his soul. It shocked Jianshan to the point where he no longer dared to use the senses of his soul to probe the mist. "Looks like we can only stop here," Jianshan said in a low voice. He was extremely disappointed. He had never thought that they would not even be able to find a trace of the Ice Goddess Hall in the Arctic with such a powerful group. At this moment, the mist up ahead began to churn violently. It slowly parted to the sides, and very soon, a 3-meter-wide tunnel appeared before Jianshan's group. At the end of the tunnel was not white mist, but a bright, snow-white world of ice. Jianshan and Ruijin looked at each other when they saw the tunnel that had suddenly appeared. They had never thought that the mist that blocked their path would automatically form a tunnel just as they were about to leave the Arctic. The four of them found this rather unbelievable. Suddenly, Jianshan seemed to think of something. His eyes immediately lit up, and he said, "I understand now. The mist must be controlled by someone. The person controlling the mist probably knows that we're here, which is why the mist has formed a tunnel for us to pass through. Jinshin could not help but think of his sister, Changyang Mingyue, as the holy maiden of the Arctic. He guessed that his sister's status in the Ice Goddess Hall was definitely quite high, but he was not certain whether the tunnel formed by the mist had anything to do with her or not. Jinshin and Ruijin gave up on the thought of retreating now that there was a tunnel. The four of them carefully made their way through the tunnel. The tunnel was 1,000 meters long, so the four of them passed through it very quickly and entered the interior region. The environment inside the mist was like heaven and hell compared to the outside. Although the interior region was also a world of ice and snow, the scenery was so beautiful that it seemed like a beautiful painting. The surrounding glaciers were translucent, shining brightly. They seemed like huge mountains of crystals. If the region outside the mist was a turbulent ocean, then the interior region was a calm sea. There were no terrifying winds or coldness that could turn Holy Emperor experts into ice sculptures. Even Holy Emperor experts would struggle to survive outside, so even weak Earth Saint Masters could move freely here. Although there was only 1,000-meter thick layer of mist between the interior and the outside world, Jinshin and the others felt like they were in two completely different worlds. Is that the Ice Goddess Hall? Suddenly, Blackfish pointed ahead and cried out. They looked over and saw a crystal palace that seemed to have been carved from ice and snow silently, standing 20 kilometers away from them. It radiated with a noble and ancient presence. Although the crystal palace was beautiful and grand, Jinshin and the others could clearly sense an ancient presence. It was as if the crystal palace in front of them had been standing alone in that place for countless years. The ancient aura of time was much thicker than anything they had ever seen that had been passed down from ancient times. This must be the Ice Goddess Hall. We're finally here. Jinshin muttered to himself as he stared at the divine palace up ahead. He was rather excited before subconsciously making his way toward it. Jinshin and Ruijin stopped before the Ice Goddess Hall very soon. Only when they stood before it did they deeply sense its grand presence. The four of them felt like they were ants before an elephant before the Ice Goddess Hall. This feeling didn't come from the enormous structure of the Ice Goddess Hall, but from the vast and boundless aura emanating from the Ice Goddess Hall. In a daze, the four of them suddenly felt like they were not standing before the beautiful Ice Goddess Hall, but a boundless universe. A person in silver-white armor stood silently on the roof of the Ice Goddess Hall. The armor covered her entire body, including her face. Only two cold, emotionless eyes were exposed, but it was still possible to tell that she was a woman from her curvaceous figure. She was like an ice sculpture, standing motionlessly on the roof of the palace. There was no aura coming from her body. It was as if she had completely merged with heaven and earth, becoming one with heaven and earth. Protector Shui glanced past Jinshin and the others with her cold, emotionless eyes. However, to Jinshin and Ruijin, she seemed to be transparent. None of them discovered her existence. Chapter 1224. Jinshin, Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish all stared at the huge Ice Goddess Hall. The ancient presence that radiated from the Ice Goddess Hall and its vast presence assaulted their souls wave after wave, shocking all of them. Ruijin and Honglian were the first to calm down. The two of them stared at the beautiful Ice Goddess Hall sternly. They actually thought the same thing, which was that the divine hall did not belong to this world. With a rumble, the crystal door of the Ice Goddess Hall slowly opened. A snow-white, alluring woman stood there with her feet bare. Immediately, a cold aura surged out. "Brother!" The woman paid all of her attention to Jinshin, as if the three of them were invisible. Her beautiful face was filled with joy and excitement. Even her voice trembled slightly. Jinshin also looked at the snow-white woman. Although it had been over a decade, he could still recognize her with a single glance. She was his sister, Changyang Mingyue. "Sister," Jinshin cried out as his emotions surged. When he was young in Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Mingyue was the one who cared about him the most aside from Baiyintian. At that time, his brother Changyang wanted to bully him more than once, and whenever Changyang Mingyue saw him, she would stand out to help him without any hesitation. As a result, Jianchen felt extremely close to Changyang Mingwei. His feelings for her even surpassed his feelings for his brother, Changyang Hu. Unfortunately, ever since the matter with the Huayun sect happened and Jianchen was forced to leave Lore City, he had never seen Changyang Mingwei again. There was not even any news from her, which made Yu Fengyan and Jianchen believe that something had happened to Changyang Mingwei. They were filled with grief. Changyang Mingwei crossed the threshold and ran toward Jianchen with bare feet. Jianchen also went up to receive her in excitement. As the two of them rapidly drew closer, Jianchen felt the coldness in the surroundings rapidly increase at an unbelievable rate. When they were 10 meters apart, Jianchen was covered in a layer of white ice. Jianchen quickly calmed down. He was secretly shocked when he sensed the sudden coldness in the surroundings. However, what surprised him even more was that the coldness came from Changyang Mingwei. Changyang Mingwei's face immediately changed when she saw the layer of ice on Jianchen. She immediately stopped and quickly retreated, pulling away from Jianchen. At the same time, she cried out in panic, "Brother, don't come over!" Jianchen stopped and looked at Changyang Mingwei from 30 meters away. He asked, "Sister, what's going on? Why are you giving off such a powerful coldness?" The coldness from Changyang Mingwei was extremely intense. If it were not for the fact that they were in a world of ice, the ground in a radius of several thousand meters would have been frozen. Even the water would have frozen. Changyang Mingwei's face was miserable. She said, "Brother, I possess the profound ice body. It hasn't matured yet, so I can't control the profound ice chi I give off. Sister, why have you become like this? What's going on?" Jianchen's voice was rather urgent. His sister was not like this in his memories at all. "Brother, it's a long story. I'll tell you in detail later. Brother, I heard from Protector Shui that you ran into some trouble. Did some large clans or sects bully you again? But don't worry, once my profound ice body matures, I'll return to the Tian Yuan continent and teach all the people who bullied you a lesson," Changyang Mingwei said bitterly. Changyang Mingwei said resentfully. She was extremely concerned about Jianchen, as if her fourth brother would always be a child in her eyes. Jianchen suddenly felt extremely warm inside. Back when he was young, his sister Changyang Mingwei had always protected him like this. She did not want him to be bullied at all. Even his third brother, Changyang Ku, had been secretly taught a lesson by his sister many times. However, what his sister did not know was that every time the three Changyang Kus tried to bully him, not only would they fail, but they would also end up losing out. They had never managed to gain any advantage over him. "Brother, has my mother been well in the past few years? And how have my father, first aunt, third aunt, and fourth aunt been? And have my brother and Changbo been well? I actually want to go home. I miss my mother, but I can't leave right now. Protector Shui won't let me go back," Changyang Mingwei said bitterly. Changyang Mingwei said in low spirits. Her great joy from seeing Jianchen before gradually vanished as well. Her face was filled with worry. She wanted to go home and take a look just too much. Jianchen suddenly returned to his senses when Yu Fengyan was mentioned. He immediately retreated to Honglian's side and let out Yu Fengyan from the artifact space. Originally, Jianchen only wanted Yu Fengyan to come out by herself, but newbies ran out as well when he heard that they had arrived at the Ice Goddess Hall. Although the coldness there was much weaker than outside, it was still rather difficult for Yu Fengyan, who was not even an Earth Saint Master, to endure. Fortunately, Honglian was there to help, using her flames to disperse the surrounding coldness. "Mother." Changyang Mingwei became beside herself with joy when she saw Yu Fengyan. She wanted to charge over without regard for anything, but she stopped after just 2 steps. Tears flowed from her eyes as she slowly retreated in pain. She knew just how powerful the profound ice chi from her profound ice body was. It was not something that Yu Fengyan could endure. Yu Fengyan immediately became stunned the moment she saw Changyang Mingwei. Tears of longing gushed out uncontrollably from Yu Fengyan's eyes. She bit her lip as she stared at the snow-white Changyang Mingwei. She could not help but tremble violently. "Mingwei," Yu Fengyan called out the next moment and quickly ran toward Chanyang Mingwe. There was only one thing she wanted to do right now, and that was to tightly hug the daughter she had missed day and night. Jianshun would never allow Yu Fengyan to actually run over. As soon as Yu Fengyan moved, she was stopped by Jianshun. Xiangtian, let me go over. Don't stop me. Xiangtian, I'm begging you. Let me go over. Yu Fengyan was unable to break free from Jianshun's spatial restraints, so she begged bitterly as tears streamed down her face. Jianshan's heart ached. If it was possible, he really did not want to stop Yu Fengyan, but for the sake of Yu Fengyan's safety, he had to stop her no matter how reluctant he was. Aunt, sister's profound ice body is radiating with a terrifying coldness. You can't go over, or you'll be frozen, Jianshun explained bitterly. Chapter 12:25. Jianshun painfully shook his head. He could not allow anything to happen to his aunt. Even if his aunt hated him today, he would not let her get over there. With his strength, he could only get 10 meters away from Chanyang Mingwe. If it were Yu Fengyan, she would have been turned into an ice sculpture before she could even get 20 meters away. Mother, don't come over here. Don't come over here. Chanyang Mingwe loudly sobbed as tears rolled down her cheeks. Her face was filled with sorrow. She retreated step by step, moving further and further away from Yu Fengyan. After almost 10 years, the mother and daughter finally reunited in this world of ice and snow. However, they could only look at each other from a distance of 100 meters. This was extremely painful for both Yu Fengyan and Chanyang Mingwe. In the end, the two of them greeted each other from a distance of 100 meters. They were concerned for each other. The feelings of longing that had been buried in their hearts for many years erupted like a flood. Unknowingly, the two of them had already talked for most of the day, but the sky did not change at all. It was as if night did not exist there. Your Majesty, it's time for you to return. You can't leave the Divine Hall for too long before your profound ice body has fully matured. At this moment, an emotionless voice suddenly rang out. Protector Shui finally spoke from the top of the Divine Hall. Jianshun, Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish were all surprised when they heard the voice. They all looked in the direction of the voice, and only at this moment did they suddenly discover a completely armored person standing high up in the Divine Hall. The eyes of Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish all narrowed the moment they saw Protector Shui. Their hearts churned as they were unable to remain calm. This was because the three of them had the feeling that Protector Shui had been there before they had arrived. She did not disguise herself at all, just standing there casually. However, the three of them were unable to discover her. Moreover, Ruijin and the others also understood that if Protector Shui hadn't taken the initiative to speak, then they would probably never have noticed her. Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish looked at each other. Their faces became extremely ugly. Not only were they unable to see through Protector Shui's strength, they could not even sense her presence. It was as if she did not exist at all, where they could only see her with their eyes. She surpassed the Holy Emperor. At that moment, the same thought appeared in the heads of Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu. The three of them had clashed with Holy Emperor experts more than once, so they obviously understood them extremely well. However, the feeling that Protector Shui gave them was completely different from the Holy Emperor. Although they had never seen Protector Shui fight before, nor did they know her strength, the three of them were extremely certain that she was definitely a sovereign who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu were extremely shocked by the fact that there were actually sovereigns who had surpassed the Holy Emperor in an age where Holy Emperor experts were extremely rare. Chanyang Mingwe reluctantly looked at Jianshun and Yu Fengyan. She said, Mother, brother, I'm going back. Mother, don't worry. Once my profound ice body matures, I'll definitely come back to visit you. Yu Fengyan felt like her heart was being stabbed by a blade when she was about to part with her beloved daughter. She stared at Chanyang Mingwe's alluring face with great reluctance as tears constantly flowed from her eyes. Brother, if you come across anything you can't deal with in the future, just come find me. No matter what trouble you come across, I'll help you deal with it. Brother, I heard from Protector Shui that you become very powerful. You've become a holy emperor, but you can't underestimate me. I've also become a holy emperor, and I've reached the 9th heavenly layer at that. You're not my opponent right now. Chanyang Mingyue faintly smiled when she reached there. She seemed rather proud of herself. What? Sister, you've already reached the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor? Jianshun was shocked. Disbelief filled his face. Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish also became shocked when they heard that. Fourth brother, remember to come and look for second sister after a year. Second sister has a gift for you. Also, these icy plains are Protector Shuei's territory. She knows everything that happens on the icy plains. I'll tell her that the next time you come, you just need to stand on the icy plains, and she'll bring you over. With that, Chanyang Mingyue disappeared into the Ice Goddess Hall. Mingyue, Mother will be waiting for your return at home. You can stay here and cultivate peacefully, Yu Fengyan shouted at the closed door. Aunt, sister is doing very well here. She'll be back before long, so don't be too sad. Jianshun comforted Yu Fengyan gently. Yu Fengyan clearly understood that Chanyang Mingyue's presence here was a great fortune for her, so she calmed down very quickly. However, after personally witnessing that Chanyang Mingyue was fine, her anxiety and worry rapidly vanished without her realizing it. Her face glowed with some vigor again, and her mood improved drastically. Jianshun looked at Protector Shuei and clasped his hands. Senior, there's something I don't understand. May I ask why my sister has become the holy maiden of the Ice Goddess Hall? Please tell me. Jianshun was also extremely curious as to why Chanyang Mingyue had become the holy maiden of the Arctic. However, he also knew that probably even Chanyang Mingyue did not know the answer, so he could only ask Protector Shuei. He had already learned from Chanyang Mingyue that Protector Shuei was the most powerful person in the Ice Goddess Hall. Her strength was unfathomable, and her status in the Ice Goddess Hall was only second to one. You still don't have the right to know about Her Majesty's matters. If it weren't for the fact that you still have a sibling relationship with Her Majesty, you would have died long ago. How would you still be standing here alive? Protector Shuei's voice was extremely cold, as if she was emotionless. She then looked at Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish. She stared at them like she was looking at ants and said, Tell me, where did you obtain the Saint artifacts with a sliver of origin energy? Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu looked at one another. They felt an ill omen, but after a moment of hesitation, they still said, The ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, left them for us. The winged tiger, Protector Shuei murmured. Protector Shuei murmured, It really is that saint beast. I never thought that he would be even more extraordinary than I had imagined. He was actually able to send a saint artifact here without me noticing at all. For a moment, Protector Shuei fell silent. She sank into her thoughts, and only after a while did she continue. The saint artifacts on the three of you should not have appeared in this world. Out of consideration for Her Majesty, I won't make things difficult for you. Hand over the saint artifacts yourselves. I want to destroy them. The expressions of Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu changed with that. The Sacred Dragon's armor and Sacred Dragon's sword were the legacy treasures of the Dragon clan, while the 9 refined Godfire feather and Scorching Godfire hairpin were the legacy treasures of the Scorching Divine Phoenix clan. These items held great significance to them, so how could they hand them over? Senior, you want to destroy the legacy treasures of the Dragon clan and Phoenix clan right from the start. Aren't you going too far? Jianshun was furious as well. He bellowed with a sunken face. That's right. The legacy treasures of our 2 clans are more important than our lives. It's impossible for us to hand them over for you to destroy. Ruijin bellowed furiously. Even though he knew that his opponent was a sovereign who had surpassed the Holy Emperor, he still showed no fear. If you want to destroy the legacy treasures of my Phoenix clan, you'll have to do it over my dead body, Honglian said firmly. Red light burned in her eyes. She was extremely furious. If the legacy treasures on you really are the legacy treasures from back then, I naturally wouldn't interfere, but they're no longer the legacy treasures from back then. They're saint artifacts that don't belong to this world, so I'll naturally destroy them. I'll give the 3 of you 2 choices right now. The first is to hand over the saint artifacts and let me destroy them, and I'll let you leave safely. The second is to stay here with the saint artifacts. Protector Shui said slowly. Senior, you keep saying that the legacy treasures of Seniors Ruijin and Honglian are no longer the legacy treasures from back then. Have you personally seen the legacy treasures of the Dragon Clan and Phoenix Clan? Jianshin said coldly. However, he was extremely nervous inside. Ruijin and Honglian's faces became extremely ugly. They both possessed legacy memories, so they obviously understood the legacy treasures extremely well. They understood that the current legacy treasures were indeed very different from the legacy treasures from back then. They had already discovered this when they first obtained the legacy treasures. Blackfish could not help but draw his origin energy weapon, the machete. At the same time, a suit of armor appeared on him. He bellowed out, "No matter who you are, it's impossible for you to destroy our origin energy treasures. So what if you've surpassed the Holy Emperor? Today, I'd like to see just how powerful a sovereign who has surpassed the Holy Emperor is." A tremendous presence erupted from Heiyu's body. Energy surged into the machete in his hand, causing the machete to shine with silver light. Powerful saber Qi wreaked havoc in the surroundings. Blackfish knew that Protector Shui was extremely powerful. She was a sovereign who had surpassed the Holy Emperor, so he used his full strength without holding back at all. Protector Shui stared at Blackfish in disdain. She did not seem to do anything, but in the next moment, a layer of crystalline ice rapidly spread from beneath Blackfish's feet. The ice spread extremely quickly, covering his entire body in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1226. Ruijin and Honglian were immediately shocked when they saw Blackfish turn into an ice statue in the blink of an eye. Blackfish had origin energy armor for defense and origin energy weapons for offense. He could even remain undefeated against an expert like the Holy Emperor, yet he could not even withstand a single blow from Protector Shui. He had been frozen without being able to put up any resistance at all. They finally witnessed the terror of those who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. Jianshun and newbies also stared at Blackfish in shock as their hearts churned. Yu Fengyin could also tell that Ruijin's group had come into conflict with Protector Shui, so she immediately became nervous. She knew that Ruijin and Honglian had assisted her in coming here today, so she obviously did not wish for anything to happen to them. In her opinion, the three of them had traveled so far to come to the Ice Goddess Hall because of her. If she caused trouble for Ruijin's group, she would feel guilty. Senior, for Mingyue's sake, can you not make things difficult for Senior Ruijin, Senior Honglian, and Senior Blackfish? Yu Fengyin asked loudly. She really did not wish to see Ruijin's group become trapped here because of her. Protector Shui's eyes were cold and emotionless, like ice that could never be melted. She had heard Yu Fengyin's plea, but she was not moved at all. She did not even glance at Yu Fengyin, treating her like she was invisible. In reality, if it were not for the fact that the Saintess was extremely close to Yu Fengyin as a mother, she would never have allowed Yu Fengyin to stand there unscathed. Will the two of you choose to let me destroy the Saint artifact or remain here forever? Protector Shui asked Ruijin and Honglian coldly. Even if we know we're not your opponent, we'll never hand over our legacy treasure. If you want to destroy our legacy treasure, you'll have to step over our corpses, Yu Fengyin coldly replied. Ruijin said coldly. Golden light erupted from his body as the Sacred Dragon's armor and Sacred Dragon's sword shone with dazzling golden light. Terrifying shockwaves of energy revolved around him as a layer of fine golden dragon scales rapidly appeared, covering his entire body. Even his hands had turned into two huge dragon claws. At the same time, flames surged around Ruijin. With a clear phoenix's cry, Honglian turned into a huge phoenix that was several dozen meters long. The 9 refined godfire feathers covered her body, while the scorching godfire hairpin hovered above her head. The scarlet flames around her rapidly turned white, radiating with terrifying heat. Newbie's second aunt returned to the artifact space first. Jianshun did not remain idle while Ruijin and Honglian fought. He immediately sent newbies and Yu Fengyan into the artifact space. A deafening dragon's roar and Phoenix's cry rang out at the same time. Ruijin and Honglian struck out at the same time. They used their full strength without holding back at all. The golden sacred dragon's sword shone with dazzling golden light as it shot toward Protector Shui with a great might that could make the world tremble. The scorching godfire, heavenly hairpin, was enveloped by a ball of scorching white flames. It radiated with a terrifying heat that was comparable to the sun. With a swish, it turned into a streak of white light and shot toward Protector Shui at unbelievable speed. Wherever it passed, the air would turn charred. The terrifying heat seemed to have set the air ablaze. "Looks like you've made your choice." "Very good," Protector Shui coldly said. A gleam of light flashed through her eyes, and the sacred dragon's sword and scorching godfire hairpin came to a halt. An invisible barrier seemed to obstruct them. No matter how terrifying the might of the two weapons was, they were unable to advance any further. In the next moment, a layer of ice appeared on the scorching godfire, heavenly hairpin, and the sacred dragon's sword. The sharp sword chi on the sacred dragon's sword and the terrifying white flames on the scorching godfire, heavenly hairpin, were unable to stop the ice from spreading. Wherever the ice passed, the sharp sword chi would be frozen, while the white flames that were as hot as the sun would be extinguished instantly. In the blink of an eye, the origin energy weapons that were unstoppable on the Tian Yuan continent had been frozen in the air by a thin layer of ice. Ruijin and Honglian were filled with shock. In the next moment, their faces suddenly froze, turning into an eternity. This was because a thin layer of ice had silently appeared on their bodies. Before the two of them could react, the ice had enveloped them with lightning speed, turning them into ice sculptures. Although the ice crystals were weak, they contained unimaginable power. Not only did they freeze their bodies, but they also sent a stream of extremely cold air into their bodies, freezing the energy in their bodies and freezing their souls at the same time. At that moment, Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish's minds froze at the same time. Time seemed to have stopped for the three of them. Senior Ruijin, Senior Honglian, Senior Blackfish. Jinshin's eyes became bloodshot as he called out loudly. He arrived beside Ruijin and constantly threw punch after punch at the ice. Every single punch contained his full strength. He wanted to shatter the ice and free Ruijin and the others. Unfortunately, while the ice seemed thin, it was extraordinarily tough. Jinshin's punches, which could easily crush a mountain, only produced muffled sounds when they struck the ice. Let alone shattering the ice, they did not even leave behind a mark. Seeing how his punches were ineffective, Jinshin pulled out his Emperor armament and stabbed out as hard as he could. Ding! The sharp tip of the Emperor armament struck the translucent ice and produced a crisp sound. His attack had almost reached the peak of the seventh heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, but it still failed to leave behind a single mark. Jinshin did not give up. He roared at the sky as his hair danced wildly. With his clothes fluttering in the wind, the Emperor armament constantly struck the ice around Ruijin, producing crisp sounds. He used his full strength every single time he swung his sword. However, even after several hundred swings, the layer of ice around Ruijin remained unscathed. Jinshin still failed to leave behind a single mark. Protector Shui stood on the Divine Hall, without moving at all like an ice sculpture. She coldly stared at Jinshin and said, "Go. It's impossible for you to break through my ice, even if you possess the strength of the Holy Emperor." Jinshin also knew that it was impossible for him to break through the seemingly weak layer of ice with his strength. He stopped what he was doing and looked at Protector Shui. He said, "Senior, you've already sealed up the Origin Energy Treasure, so can you release the three seniors, Ruijin and the others? I'm already letting you leave safely because of your relationship with the Saintess, yet you still dare to raise conditions with me." Protector Shui's gaze became rather sharp as her voice became filled with heavy, killing intent. With a wave of her hand, Jinshin suddenly vanished from the icy plains. Jianshin only felt like his body had been tightly bound by an invisible force. The force was extremely powerful, making Jianshin feel like he was facing the vastness of the universe. He was as weak as an ant before the force, unable to resist at all. He could not even think about resisting. Oh no, is Protector Shui going to attack me? Jianshin's heart sank. However, as soon as he thought of that, he felt his body lighten. The tremendous force that had bound him suddenly vanished, and he felt a burning sensation. The world of ice and snow before him had vanished, and he stood on a desolate piece of land. Jianshin knew that he had returned to the Tianyuan continent, but he was not happy at all because Ruijin and the others were still trapped in the Arctic. They had not come out with him. Suddenly, Jianshin shot up from the ground and into the clouds. He hovered in the air and quickly found his position with a map. He discovered that he was not far from the sea that separated the North Pole from the North Pole. With a thought, a speck of golden light immediately flew out from between Jianshin's eyebrows. It turned into a fist-sized golden tower that hovered in the air. Artifact Spirit, find a place to hide with my aunt and newbies. I'm going to the Ice Goddess Hall. If I don't return in 7 days, get newbies to take you back to the Changyang Prefecture, Jianshin said to the Golden Tower. With the order, the Golden Tower immediately disappeared into the ground as a golden streak of light. Jianshin made his way to the Ice Goddess Hall again by himself. A day later, Jianshin leapt over the vast ocean and landed on the icy plains once again. He then used the illusory flash and shot toward the depths of the icy plains as a blur. Just when Jianshin had traveled less than 10 kilometers, a terrifying stream of coldness seemed to descend from the sky. The temperature of the icy plains suddenly plummeted, quickly condensing into a layer of ice on Jianshin's body. Jianshin knew that Protector Shui was probably secretly warning him, but he showed no fear. He did not slow down at all as he circulated his chaotic force as hard as he could to block the terrifying coldness in the surroundings. Jianshin would never allow the 3 of them to be trapped on the icy plains because of him. He knew that the only person who could save Ruijin and the others was Changyang Minghua. His objective this time was very simple. He wanted to approach the Ice Goddess Hall again and alert Changyang Minghua. More and more ice crystals condensed on Jianshin, and his movements became rather sluggish. The bone-chilling coldness constantly attempted to invade his body in an attempt to freeze his vitality, but it was blocked by his chaotic force. If you don't leave the icy plains, you'll end up like the 3 of them. A cold and obscure voice clearly rang out in Jianshin's head. Senior, please release Ruijin and the others. Otherwise, Jianshin, swear that I won't let this matter go. Jianshin called out. However, as soon as he said that, he felt an extremely terrifying stream of coldness envelop him. Even his chaotic force was unable to stop the stream of coldness for even a moment. In a single moment, Jianshin was frozen into a lifelike statue, immobilized. Jianshin lost control over his body. He tried his best to control his chaotic force to neutralize the stream of coldness. But as soon as his chaotic force came in contact with the stream of coldness, it was also frozen by the terrifying stream of coldness, losing control over it. Jianshin was shocked. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to stop the stream of coldness from invading his body. The coldness rapidly spread through his body, freezing his flesh and blood, freezing his vitality. Even the chaotic Naiden in his dantian was frozen. At the same time, the stream of coldness rapidly spread toward his brain in an attempt to freeze his soul. Chapter 12:27. 2 resplendent lights, one violet and one azure, enveloped Jianshin's sea of consciousness. At the same time, they protected Jianshin's soul. As soon as the terrifying stream of coldness came into contact with the azure and violet lights, it began to slow down. The rapidly spreading momentum finally met with an obstruction, and it was difficult to advance any further. What powerful coldness! Master, where have you come to? How can there be such powerful coldness? Even your chaotic Naiden has been frozen. Ziying's voice rang out in Jianshin's head. Her voice was filled with shock. Not only had Jianshun lost control of his body, but he had also lost his senses. The moment the sword spirits protected his soul, his consciousness had entered his sea of consciousness involuntarily. In the center of his sea of consciousness, a five-colored crystal floated there. This was a five-colored immortal crystal that Jianshun had accidentally bought in Walnut City. In the past few years, the sword spirits had been absorbing the pure, immortal qi within the crystal to recover their vitality, and the crystal had shrunk by a few sizes. Beside the five-colored fairy crystal, two rays of light, one purple and one green, slowly revolve around the five-colored fairy crystal like a rotating Taiji diagram. The two rays of light seemed to be intertwined with each other, but they did not touch each other and always maintain a gap. This was the original form of the sword spirits. However, the color of their original forms was much deeper than before. Jianshun understood that the sword spirits had become much more powerful than before after using the five-colored immortal crystals to recover their vitality. Although the sword spirits were recovering in Jianshun's sea of consciousness, they clearly did not pay attention to anything. They knew nothing about what Jianshun had encountered in the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. Jianshun recounted everything that had happened to him in the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. The sword spirits immediately fell into a short period of silence. After quite a while, Xing's stern voice rang out. In the past, Qing Saw and I both sensed that someone was secretly spying on us with the senses of their soul. However, we were heavily injured and had yet to recover, so we were unable to find where the person was hiding. Looking at it now, that person was that protector Shui. Master, that protector Shui is extremely powerful. She probably doesn't belong to this world. With your current strength, you are powerless before her. You must not provoke her. Sword spirits, are you saying that Protector Shui came from another world, just like me? Jianshun asked in surprise. That's right. The only difference is that Master came from below, while Protector Shui came from above. Although she is extremely powerful, she is restricted by the laws of the world here. She can't attack as she pleases, nor can she destroy the balance here, or she will be punished by the world. Master should be fine as long as you don't provoke her, Xing said. Jianshun's heart sank with that. He had never thought that Protector Shui would have such a great background. She was an expert from a higher world. In other words, he would not be able to save Rui Jin's group in a short amount of time. As a matter of fact, he would not even be able to see his sister if Protector Shui purposefully prevented him from doing so. Although the sword spirits had said that Protector Shui could not attack as she pleases, that meant that she could not attack without reason. Protector Shui had also said that the origin energy weapons of Rui Jin's group were saint artifacts that should not have appeared this year. Protector Shui had used this reason to attack Rui Jin's group. It was reasonable and reasonable. Master, Qing Suo and I have yet to recover our strength, so we are not Protector Shui's opponent. However, we can neutralize the coldness in Master's body. All you need to do is cooperate with us and break free from the bindings of the ice seal. Then, we will leave the icy plains as quickly as possible. Otherwise, if Protector Shui attacks Master again, Master's coldness will increase by several levels. At that time, even Qing Suo and my assistants will be useless, Xing sternly said. Understand. Xing, Qing Suo, let's begin, Jianshun said. Afterward, the azure and violet light in Jianshun's sea of consciousness became brighter and brighter. Afterward, the two streaks of light shot out from Jianshun's sea of consciousness like two sharp swords. The two streaks of light coiled around each other, but they did not touch each other. They shot toward Jianshun's dantian like a hot knife through butter. The two streaks of light were like miniature suns. All the coldness along the way melted away as soon as they came in contact with them. When the two streaks of light arrived in Jianshun's dantian, the coldness that had frozen his chaotic Naiden immediately began to disperse rapidly. Jianshun regained control over his chaotic Naiden. Without needing the sword spirits to say anything, Jianshun immediately used his mind to control his chaotic Naiden to spit out strands of chaotic force. Afterward, He worked with the sword spirit's energy to circulate through his body, quickly purging the coldness from his body. A few seconds later, a huge sound suddenly rang out from the snowy tundra. Jinshin shattered the thin layer of ice on his body. Without any hesitation, he immediately rose into the air and flew off into the distance as a blur. He left the tundra as quickly as he could. Master, we've expended quite a lot of energy. We'll have to enter a period of deep sleep. We'll only awaken when Master faces a life or death crisis, or when there's a heavenly resource that can draw our attention. Ziying's voice was rather weak. After saying that, she did not move at all. Jianshan sank into his sea of consciousness. As expected, he discovered that the sword spirits had dimmed slightly. Clearly, purging the coldness from their bodies had taken quite a toll on them. In the Ice Goddess Hall, the silver-armored protector, Shui, remained motionless in her original spot like an ice sculpture. A thoughtful look appeared in her eyes. Suddenly, a gleam of light flashed through Protector Shui's eyes. She glanced in the direction Jianshan had left in, but she soon lost interest. She glanced past the origin energy weapons of Ruijin and the other two as she sank in her thoughts. Suddenly, a resplendent light erupted from Protector Shui's cold eyes. Immediately, the temperature in the surroundings plummeted, becoming countless times colder than a 10,000-year-old ice cavern. Protector Shui slowly clenched her fist as a destructive energy gathered in her fist. She coldly said, "I understand now. I finally understand now. No wonder I always felt that something was off when I used the senses of my soul to spy on you. You've discovered that I was spying on you long ago and purposefully put on an act for me to see. Good, good, good. What a MOT-onion. What a winged tiger." Protector Shui's voice became colder and colder. Her anger became greater and greater. Protector Shui suddenly looked in the direction of the Tian Yuan continent. A huge stone statue gradually appeared in her icy cold eyes. It was the statue of a god that stood at the center of Mercenary City. The next moment, the statue in her eyes vanished, replaced by a huge divine hall with 99 floors tall. This was the supreme divine hall on the Beast God continent, the Beast God Hall. Winged Tiger, Emotianyan, just who are you? Even this queen has been fooled by you. Protector Shui said through gritted teeth. She felt like she had been tricked by the Winged Tiger and Emotianyan. This was a great humiliation to her, a humiliation that she would never be able to wash away. Protector Shui suddenly waved her hand, and 3 finger-sized ice arrows condensed in the air. They then shot toward the 3 frozen origin energy weapons with lightning-like speed. With 3 crisp sounds, the Sacred Dragon's sword, the Scorching Godfire hairpin, and Black Fish's machete all snapped in half. They fell to the ground with a clatter. Jianshin returned to the Chanyang prefecture of Lore City in a rather dejected manner after finding the Saint artifact. He locked himself up in his room and did not take a single step out. Ever since Yufeng Yan returned from the Ice Goddess Hall, her mood had greatly improved. In just a few days, she was glowing with health, and the worry between her brows had completely vanished. Even her haggard face improved day by day. Jianshan locked himself up in his room for the past few days. No one came to disturb him. He currently sat on his bed as he held a dim, high-class monster core in one hand. He did his best to absorb the energy within to cultivate. The monster cores had all been taken from the artifact space. They had been covered in dust for who knows how many tens of thousands of years. Through the corrosion of time, they could not even be called monster cores anymore. They were products between rock and monster cores. Not only had most of the energy inside been drained away, but what little energy remained was basically solid as well, making it extremely difficult to absorb. After experiencing how helpless he was when Ruijin and the others were trapped, Jinshin's desire for great power was roused. As soon as he returned to the Chanyang prefecture, he locked himself up in his room to cultivate. Jinshin did not use the active monster cores in his space ring. They all came from the Heavens Incense School. After distributing a large number to Bai Lian and Xiao Bao, he did not have much left. Even if he absorbed all the monster cores, his chaotic body would not be able to reach the fourth layer. There was still a large number of almost useless monster cores in the artifact space. Due to the difficulty of absorbing them, he could only barely absorb them with his special cultivation method and chaotic body. If he gave them to someone else, even the Holy Emperor would not be able to absorb all the solidified energy. As a result, Jianshun needed to refine the almost useless monster cores first. He also understood that even if he refined all the monster cores in the artifact space and the space ring, he would not be able to reach the fourth layer. However, he would be able to strengthen his chaotic Niden a little at the very least. The energy required for each layer of the chaotic body would increase by several times or even over a dozen times. The amount of resources required to reach the fourth layer from the third layer was unimaginable. In the blink of an eye, Jianshun had already been in seclusion for several days. He had refined many monster cores during that time, but the effects were almost negligible. His chaotic Niden remained the same size, without any changes. Jianshun could not even sense any increase in his chaotic body. Jianshun, the worldly ebb has arrived early. It will erupt soon, so prepare yourself and come to the sea realm as soon as possible. At this moment, Poseidon's vague voice rang out in Jianshun's head. It was gentle and extremely pleasant. Chapter 1228. It's time to fulfill Poseidon's promise. I just never thought that the day of the worldly ebb would come so soon, Jianshun murmured to himself. He was not surprised that Poseidon had been able to find him. Although Poseidon no longer possessed a body, his soul was even more powerful than in ancient times. He could easily envelop the entire Tian Yuan continent or even the Beast God continent. Jianshun got off the bed. He had no idea how long his trip to the sea realm would take. Before he left, there were some things he needed to make clear, especially the flame mercenaries. He needed to be on guard against the revenge of the underworld sect at all times. Ahu, don't go. Don't leave your mother. You're my only son. Mother can't be without you. As soon as Jianshun opened the door, Ling Long's sorrowful voice rang out from afar. Jianshun was stunned, but he seemed to think of something soon after. His face immediately changed slightly, and he hurried over. From afar, Jianshun saw his elder brother, Chanyang Hu, hovering 10 meters in the air in white robes. He did not give off any pulses of energy. He did not control elemental energy as a heaven saint master to hover in the air. At the same time, Jianshun did not sense any saint ruler abilities from Chanyang Hu. Chanyang Hu was hovering in the air in a way that even Jianshun did not understand and had never heard of before. An indescribable charm flowed from Chanyang Hu, making him seem otherworldly. He seemed like an immortal who had not been tainted by the dust of the mortal world. He possessed a sacred charm. On the ground, Ling Long raised her head to look at the Chanyang prefecture hovering 10 meters in the air. Tears constantly streamed down her face. She was filled with sorrow as she cried out pleadingly. A group of guards had already gathered around them. Even Yu Fengyan, Bai Yu Shuang, Bai Yun Tian, and the head of Chanyang prefecture, Chanyang Ba, had hurried over. All of them looked at Chanyang Hu in bewilderment. Jianshun's heart sank. He knew that the thing he hated to see the most had finally happened. He took a step forward and instantly crossed over 100 meters and appeared in front of Chanyang Hu. Big brother. Looking at Chanyang Hu's emotionless expression, Jianshun couldn't help but anxiously call out to Chanyang Hu. Chanyang Hu's expression was very calm. His eyes were sometimes very bright, clear and transparent, like two resplendent pearls, filled with great wisdom and great perseverance. Sometimes, it would become an expanse of darkness. It was as deep as the vast starry sky, and it contained a universe that was all-encompassing. It was as if it had formed a small world of its own, and it was extremely mysterious and difficult to understand. Fourth brother, big brother is leaving, Chanyang Hu said to Jianshun with a calm gaze. There was a trace of smile on his face. The way he called out fourth brother was so calm, and it no longer had the sincerity from before. At this moment, Jianshun felt as if his big brother had become a completely different person. He was so unfamiliar that Jinshin couldn't find the slightest trace of familiarity. The scenes of him interacting with his big brother in Kargath Academy flashed through Jinshin's mind like a movie. Jinshin felt waves of pain in his heart. He had already realized that his big brother Chanyang, who had already severed the last of his familial ties. From now on, he had become a stranger. The big brother in his memories would no longer exist in the future. From now on, his big brother, who was as close as a brother to him, would only live in his memories. Big brother, have you really severed your own emotions? Can you really bear to see Big Aunt hurt because of you? Jinshin's voice trembled slightly. He still wanted to try and see if he could awaken Chanyang-hu. Chanyang-hu continued to smile. His expression did not change at all after hearing Jinshin's words. He gazed deeply into the distance and said, "The world is heartless. We are nurtured by the world, and we follow the path of the world to comprehend the world. The turbid air of the mortal world is like strands of demonic aura, blinding the eyes of the world and confusing the hearts of the world. Only by transcending can we find our original heart and understand the mysteries of the world. Life is like a dream. In life, dreams come true. When people die, dreams come to an end. Everything we experience is both real and illusory, but in the end, it will still turn into nothingness. Dreams may seem fake, but they are not real. What seems real is not real. The so-called emotions and desires are all like this, illusory and illusory. Only by dispelling the fog of the mortal world, finding our original heart, understanding our true self, and severing our false self, can we settle down and establish our life. We can witness the mysteries of the world and prove the supreme great Tao." With that, Chanyang-hu drifted away. He left in a carefree manner without any hesitation. Jinshin remained silent. He hovered in the air as he silently watched Chanyang, whose figure gradually disappear into the distance. He felt waves of pain in his heart. He knew that Chanyang, who had completely severed everything. In the future, there would probably be no more familial ties in Chanyang-hu's eyes. There would only be an unchanging heart to comprehend the world. He had embarked on an unusual path. For a moment, Jinshin became somewhat dispirited. He was in a very bad mood. Not long ago, he had lost Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish. Today, he had lost the big brother he respected the most. Although he had the ability to force his big brother to stay, he did not do so. He knew that all of this was futile. Chanyang-hu's path had already been decided. It was difficult to change it. Chanyang-hu's departure without any reluctance shattered Linglong's heart. She let out a sorrowful cry before fainting. First madam. The maids turned pale with fright and quickly supported Linglong. "Send First Madam back to her room to rest," Chanyang Ba said with a downcast expression. His heart was very heavy. Jinshin stared at the place where Chanyang-hu disappeared for a long time before letting out a long sigh. He returned to the ground with a gloomy expression. "Xiang'er, come to mother." Bai Yuntian came to Jinshin's side and tightly held onto Jinshin's arm. After personally witnessing what had happened to Chanyang-hu, Bai Yuntian felt somewhat afraid. She was afraid that she would lose her child like Linglong. "Xiang'er, can you tell father what happened to your big brother?" Chanyang Ba asked bitterly. He had also realized that his eldest son, Chanyang-hu, had probably become a thing of the past. Jinshin remained silent for a moment before saying, "Big brother has chosen a path that suits him. He has embarked on a different path of cultivation. I don't know what will happen in the future." Outside Lore City, a white-robed person stood on a tree branch and watched Chanyang-hu leave. He murmured, "Looks like Chanyang-hu has already broken through the final barrier. His state of mind has already reached perfection. He has finally reached this step." Due to what had happened to Chanyang-hu, Jinshin's journey to the Sea Realm was delayed by a day. On the second day, Jinshin first went to the Flame Mercenaries to hand over some matters before comforting Bai Yuntian. After repeatedly promising that he would return once he was done, he set off for the Sea Realm with newbies. Emerging from the space gate, Jinshin and newbies hovered above the vast sea. Feeling the tranquility of the sea and the gentle breeze, they immediately felt a sense of comfort and relaxation from the bottom of their hearts. The gloominess from their brother's departure the previous day was completely swept away. With the help of the sea goddess, Jinshin and newbies passed through the barrier without any obstructions. At the same time, Poseidon's voice rang out in their ears. The worldly ebb will erupt in the next few days. I will keep an eye on the situation of the worldly ebb. Stay in the sea realm for the next few days and wait for my news. Yes, your majesty Poseidon, Jinshin replied respectfully. After a moment of hesitation, he said to the empty space, Your majesty, Jinshin has something to ask. May I ask if your majesty knows the protector Shui of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall? Jinshin knew that Poseidon was basically an omnipresent existence in the sea realm. She would definitely be able to hear what he said. However, as soon as Jinshin finished speaking, an illusionary woman with a hazy appearance silently appeared before him. She asked sternly, Why are you asking about the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall? Do you still want to go there? Before Jinshin could reply, Poseidon continued, I've never heard of the protector Shui of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall, but the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall is an extremely terrifying place. Who knows how many holy emperor experts have entered the icy plains since ancient times, but less than 1/10 of them have returned alive. In the past, I tried to investigate the depths of the icy plains with the power of my soul, but as soon as my soul approached the icy plains, it was frozen by an extremely terrifying coldness. At the same time, the coldness used the power of my soul as a guide, rapidly spreading toward the sea realm. If I had not withdrawn the power of my soul in time, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Poseidon's voice was filled with deep fear. It was more than enough to make the sea goddess, who had reached the origin realm, feel like this. Afterwards, the winged tiger gave Amagami to me. At the same time, he reminded me that unless the icy plains in the Arctic vanished, I was not to investigate the icy plains no matter what happened. As a result, I never went to investigate the icy plains again. Poseidon's voice was filled with mixed emotions. The power of her soul was extremely powerful. Not only could it envelop the entire sea realm, but she could even go to the vast Tian Yuan continent and Beast God continent as she pleased. She could even extend it to the wasteland continent where the 100 races resided. Without any exaggeration, she could go wherever she wanted with her soul in this world. There was no power that could threaten her, even the greatest danger zone on the Tian Yuan continent, the Death Nest. Only the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall was a forbidden zone that she would never set foot in. Your Majesty, do you know when the Ice Goddess Hall appeared? Jinshin asked again. After all, the sea goddess was a sovereign who had been born in the same era as Emo Tanyun and the others. The secrets she knew were incomparable to the Holy Emperor. The Ice Goddess Hall seems to have existed since ancient times. No one knows when it appeared, but the people of the Ice Goddess Hall rarely appear on the Tian Yuan continent. Every time they appear, they go to the Tian Yuan continent to find disciples. They keep an extremely low profile, said Poseidon. She answered all of Jinshin's questions to the best of her abilities. At this moment, Jinshin thought about how the sword spirits had said that Protector Shui had come from above. If that was the case, was the Ice Goddess Hall created by Protector Shui? Jinshin asked again when he thought up to there. Your Majesty, is there a way for people who have surpassed the Holy Emperor to live for over 1,000,000 years? Poseidon shook her head. Beyond the Holy Emperor is the origin realm. There are 3 realms of origin, which are receival, returnance, and reciprocity. According to my understanding, the origin realm only has a lifespan of 100,000 years. Even if you reach returnance and use various heavenly resources to increase your lifespan, it's impossible for you to live for over 200,000 years. It's impossible for you to live for 1,000,000 years. Perhaps it's only possible if you surpass the origin realm and reach an even higher realm. Of course, if you have the assistance of some heaven-defying treasure, you might be able to live for 1,000,000 years or even longer. However, even if that's the case, you'll only end up like me. You'll only be able to preserve your soul, but you won't be able to possess a body. At the same time, your soul won't be able to leave the treasure that protects it. Chapter 1229. The only place Jianshan could stay in the Sea Realm was the Turtle Clan. So after ending his conversation with Poseidon, he flew to the territory of the Turtle Clan with newbies. The space in the Sea Realm was even tougher than outside. It was impossible for holy emperors to rip open space gates in there. So Jianshan and newbies could only fly to the Turtle Clan. Haha! It's said that the barrier around the Sea Realm can stop foreign experts who have reached the level of Holy Emperor. As a foreign Holy Emperor, newbies can still enter and exit the Sea Realm so effortlessly. Probably only the two of us can enjoy such treatment in the entire world. Newbies could not help but laugh happily as the two of them flew. Alright, Jianshan, that big guy is still cultivating in the artifact space. He doesn't seem to have come to the Sea Realm before, right? Let's get him to come out and broaden his horizons, newbies added. With that, Jianshan immediately thought of Tai Ta, who had always been cultivating in the artifact space. After hesitating slightly, he called Tai Ta out in the end. With a flash of golden light, Tai Ta's burly figure appeared beside Jianshan. His skin was faintly golden as a faint golden light radiated from his body. It seemed like he was wearing a set of gilded skin. As Tai Ta's identity was just too sensitive on the Tian Yuan continent, Jianshan had never dared to expose Tai Ta to the world. After all, the war god of the 100 races had completely offended the beast god continent and the Tian Yuan continent in ancient times. Once the news of the war god's reappearance spread, he would not be able to protect Tai Ta with his current strength. However, it was different in the Sea Realm. In ancient times, the Sea Realm was the only great race that did not take part in the war, so they had no grievances with the war god of the 100 races. Perhaps to the various experts of the Sea Realm, whether the war god of the 100 races appeared or not had nothing to do with them, so there was no conflict of interest. It was exactly because of this that Jianshan could allow Tai Ta to appear in the Sea Realm so boldly without any worries. This was Tai Ta's first time in the Sea Realm. As soon as he emerged from the sacred artifact space, he kept looking around. He was very curious about everything here. He kept asking Jianshan and newbies all sorts of questions. Jianshan and newbies explained everything to Iron Tower as they traveled. They shared everything they knew with Iron Tower. The three of them maintained a straight line as they flew in the direction of the Turtle Clan. They flew over many large clans and attracted quite a few experts to stop them. However, when the three of them unleashed their presences without holding back, the experts who had come to stop them immediately paled. They politely clasped their hands at Jianshan's group before retreating obediently. After traveling for several hours, Jianshan's group finally returned to the Turtle Clan. However, what entered his eyes was not the bustling settlement of the Turtle Clan. Instead, it was a blood-soaked battlefield. Blood had gathered into streams as many corpses lay on the ground. Not only were there corpses from the Turtle Clan, but there were also corpses from other sea clans. However, the corpses all wore the same attire, so it was easy to tell that they belonged to the same organization with a single glance. The majestic buildings that once belonged to the Turtle Clan had been reduced to ruins long ago. Bloodstains covered the entire place. In the distance, 200-meter-wide pits had been dug out. Several dozen people in the same attire were busy moving the corpses in the ruins of the Turtle Clan. They moved all the corpses into the two pits and buried them. There were hundreds or even thousands of corpses piled up in each pit. The scene before them caused the expressions of Jianshan and newbies to drastically change. Only the confused Tai Ta remained composed as he studied the ruins of the Turtle Clan. Jianshan hovered several hundred meters in the air as he blankly stared at the gruesome scene below. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. At that moment, he even began to wonder if his eyes were playing tricks on him. Suddenly, a surge of fury surged from Jianshan's heart. Powerful killing intent radiated from his body uncontrollably, causing the temperature in the surroundings to rapidly plummet. It was as if the surroundings had become a cavern of ice. Jianshan suddenly vanished into the sky. When he reappeared, he had crossed over 1,000 meters and appeared before a middle-aged man in the same attire who was moving the corpses. He directly grabbed the man by his clothes and snapped. "What happened to the Turtle Clan? Speak." The middle-aged man was only an Earth Saint Master. The tremendous presence and cold, killing intent from Jianshan pressed down on his chest like a mountain, making it difficult for him to breathe. He almost suffocated as his face paled in a single moment. The middle-aged man deeply understood how terrifying Jianshan was. He even felt like he was facing the eyes of the god of death when he faced Jianshan's cold eyes. They could steal his soul at any time. Why? Why, warrior? The Turtle Clan has already been destroyed by the Tao family. I am a member of the Tao family, so please spare my life for the sake of the Tao family. The middle-aged man was filled with fear as he answered Jianshan with a trembling voice. At the same time, he did not forget to mention the name of the Tao family, so that Jianshan would not dare to do anything to him. What? The Turtle Clan has been destroyed. Jianshan murmured in a rather daze. It was like a thunderclap had exploded in his head, making him feel like the world was spinning around him. He did not have a particularly deep relationship with the Turtle Clan, but the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan had saved his life. In the past, the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan had been beaten to death in order to save him. He had even become obsessed with the Turtle Clan after his death, which was more than enough to demonstrate just how important the Turtle Clan was to the Grand Elder. Jianshan no longer had the opportunity to thank the Grand Elder for saving his life. The only thing he could do was complete the Grand Elder's lifelong wish and bring the Turtle Clan back to its former glory so that the Grand Elder could die without any regrets. Yet now, not only had the Turtle Clan failed to return to its former glory under his lead, they had even suffered such a disaster. How could Jianshan not be furious? The Tao family, Jianshan said through gritted teeth. The killing intent in his chest had reached its limit. He then struck the middle-aged man's head with his hand, crushing it to pieces and wiping out his soul. The several dozen people who were moving the corpses all stopped what they were doing and gathered around. They had originally come to check the situation, but when they saw Jianshan smash the middle-aged man's head to pieces, they immediately shivered inside and began to slowly back away. Jianshan slowly glanced past them with his eyes filled with killing intent. He coldly said, "You're all from the Tao family? If that's the case, you can all be buried with the clansmen of the Turtle Clan." "Warrior, please wait." At this moment, an old voice filled with fear rang out. An old man quickly walked over from afar. He wore the same clothes as the people of the Tao family. The old man was a saint ruler, but he was only at the first heavenly layer. Clearly, he had only broken through recently, but his forehead was covered in sweat. The cold, killing intent radiating from Jianshan terrified him. "Warrior, an intense battle erupted between the Turtle Clan and the Tao family 3 days ago, but the Turtle Clan was not destroyed. All the remaining people of the Turtle Clan have retreated 10,000 kilometers to the south. We've only come to clean up the battlefield." The old man bowed as he carefully explained. He had not chosen to flee earlier because he understood that fleeing from Jianshan with his strength would be completely pointless. Jianshan immediately expanded the senses of his soul after hearing the old man's words. As expected, he discovered quite a few people of the Turtle Clan 10,000 kilometers to the south. Without any hesitation, he immediately shot into the sky and flew toward where the Turtle Clan had gathered with lightning-like speed. "Big guy, let's go," Newbies called out to Taita before following closely behind Jianshan with Taita. The old man from the Tao family let out a sigh of relief. He wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and said to the others, "Forget about the corpses. Another supreme expert has come to the Turtle Clan. Let's hurry back to the clan and report this matter." The place was originally empty, but it had now become the territory of a large tribe. The tribe that had taken over the territory was the Turtle Clan. The Turtle Clan had clearly not taken over the place for very long. Many of the houses had been newly built, and there were even many that were still under construction. Although the people in the tribe flowed endlessly, very few of them spoke. Every single one of them was filled with grief and indignation. They clenched their teeth as they silently built their new homes. Every single one of them hid a hatred that they could not vent. The entire Turtle Clan was enveloped in a gloomy atmosphere. Jianshan, Newbies, and Taita arrived at the new territory of the Turtle Clan. As soon as the three of them landed, a member of the turtle clan who was building a house discovered them. He immediately recognized Jinshin and immediately became stunned. He rubbed his eyes as his face became filled with joy and disbelief. It's the ruler. The ruler has returned. The ruler has returned. Fantastic. The ruler of our clan has returned. The member of the turtle clan who recognized Jinshin cried out. His voice was filled with excitement. What? The ruler has returned? Is this true? Where is he? Where's the ruler? Has the ruler really returned? I see him. It really is the ruler. Fantastic. The ruler has really returned. More and more people discovered Jinshin. The entire turtle clan immediately began to cheer enthusiastically. All of them were overjoyed. In the hearts of the people of the turtle clan, the ruler was their pillar of support. He was the hope of the turtle clan. Even though they had been forced into such dire straits by the Tao family, they were still filled with confidence in the ruler. All of them believed that the turtle clan would never be defeated as long as the ruler remained. This was because every single member of the turtle clan clearly remembered just how weak they had been a few years ago. They did not even have a single 16-star expert. However, ever since the ruler of the turtle clan had arrived, the turtle clan had undergone an overwhelming change. In just a few short years, they had gone from a medium-sized tribe without a 16-star expert to a super organization with at least 5 16-star experts. They had even taken back most of the crystal mines that had been stolen from them. Chapter 1230. A majestic hall that was over 20 meters tall stood silently in the center of the turtle clan. The entire hall was yellow in color, having been condensed from Earth in a very short amount of time by a saint ruler using their abilities to control the Earth. Quite a powerful energy was hidden inside. At this moment, several saint ruler elders of the turtle clan gathered together in an extremely spacious hall within the hall. They were all worried, and the entire hall was filled with a heavy atmosphere. What do you think our turtle clan should do now? Should we give up on all the crystal mines that originally belonged to us and leave this place? Or should we continue to develop here and face the threat of the Tao family moving against us at any time? The fourth elder sternly asked. No, I will never agree to give up on the crystal mines that originally belonged to our clan. Such a large amount of crystal mines is a great resource to our clan. They're the only thing we can rely on to rise up. If we give them up now, it'll be even more difficult to take them back in the future. And since the Hall elders of the Poseidon Hall have stepped forward to stop the Tao family from waging war against us, I don't think the Tao family will touch us so easily in the future. The sixth elder objected as soon as the fourth elder finished speaking. Sixth elder, are you still hoping that the Hall elders will stand on our side forever? The ancestor of the Tao family, Tao Jingtian, has almost reached the peak of the 16th star. He'll become one of the Hall elders of the Poseidon Hall sooner or later. Once he becomes a Hall elder, he'll have no qualms about moving against us again. When that time comes, it'll truly be the end of our clan. The fifth elder coldly snorted. He was extremely disdainful of the sixth elder's words. The fourth elder gently sighed when he heard the fifth elder's words. He said, "It's a pity that the ruler isn't here. If only the ruler were here. Only the ruler could decide the fate of our turtle clan." The ancestor of the Tao family, Tao Jingtian, is just far too powerful, and he's allied with the Mashi clan through marriage. This has caused the Tao family's power to flourish in the territory of the Poseidon Hall. Coupled with the alliance of over a dozen large clans, the 15-star and 16-star experts they've gathered is not something our clan can compare to. Even if the ruler returns, we still won't be able to fend off the Tao family with our strength. The seventh elder sternly said. The fourth elder's face changed. He sternly stared at the seventh elder and growled, "Seventh elder, how can you judge the ruler like that? As elders of the turtle clan, we can lose confidence in ourselves, but we can't lose confidence in the ruler because the ruler is the sky of our turtle clan. He's the hope of our turtle clan. Only a turtle clan with a ruler watching over it can be truly powerful. We must firmly believe that once the ruler returns, our turtle clan will be able to make up for our current situation." The seventh elder immediately fell silent. He lowered his head and said nothing more. Although the ruler of the Turtle Clan spent very little time in the Turtle Clan, he had already established a great figure in the hearts of all the elders. Our dash! At this moment, a guard hurriedly ran in from outside as he called out. The elders immediately stopped their discussion when they saw how hurried the guard was. One of them sternly stared at the guard and asked with a heavy voice, "What has happened? Have the experts of the Tao family come again?" "No, no. Elders, King. King has returned. Old King has returned." The guard gasped for breath as he spoke. His expression was extremely excited. "What? The king is back?" Hearing this, the elders present were overjoyed. One of the elders even laughed loudly and said in a clear voice, "Elders, let us quickly go and welcome the king." "No need. I'm already here." As soon as the elder finished speaking, Jinshin's deep voice came from outside the hall. Before he finished speaking, newbies, and Taita appeared in front of the elders. And behind Jinshin and the other two, a large group of clansmen followed behind him. They all stopped outside the hall as joy and excitement filled their faces from the bottom of their hearts. "Greetings, King." The elders of the Turtle Clan immediately bowed to Jinshin. They were all so excited that their voices trembled slightly. Jinshin directly made his way to the throne at the very front of the hall and sat down. The elders stood in a row below him politely. Newbies and Taita were much more relaxed. They knew that Jinshin had important matters to attend to, so they did not disturb Jinshin. Instead, they strolled around the hall by themselves. "Tell me what has happened. Why has the Tao family attacked the Turtle Clan for no reason?" Jinshin coldly asked with a sunken face. The fourth elder immediately stepped forward and politely said to Jinshin, "King, you must know that ever since our Turtle Clan's strength skyrocketed, we've been working hard to reclaim the crystal mines that once belonged to us and were later taken away by other organizations. Originally, most of the crystal mines had already been taken back by our Turtle Clan. Only a few of the larger mines of higher quality are still controlled by a few large clans. They've never been willing to return them to us. In order to oppose us, they've even formed an alliance with the Tao family. The remaining mines that have yet to be reclaimed are far too important to our Turtle Clan. At the same time, those mines originally belonged to us, so we never gave up on them. Because of this, the experts of our Turtle Clan clashed with the alliance led by the Tao family many times, resulting in casualties on both sides. However, since we had 5 16-star experts, we were no weaker than the alliance of the Tao family. As a result, we were unable to do anything to each other. However, this balance was broken a month ago. The Tao family has already formed a marriage alliance with the Moses clan, which is also a peak organization of the Poseidon Hall. The Moses clan has 2 peak experts, one at the 16th star and the other at the 15th star. Their ancestor, who has reached the 16th star, is no weaker than Tao Jingtian. With the addition of the Moses clan, the alliance led by the Tao family has completely surpassed our Turtle Clan. Soon afterward, the Tao family sent an envoy to our Turtle Clan. They said that our Turtle Clan had recklessly stolen many crystal mines in the past few years with the support of several 16-star experts, destroying the peace in the territory of the Poseidon Hall. They also wanted us to hand over all the mines and compensate them for their losses. Otherwise, the Tao family will work with all the clans that we've bullied in the past to attack us. The fourth elder's voice was filled with uncontrollable anger when he reached there. His eyes were about to spit fire. Even the other elders in the hall were extremely furious. Their faces had all paled from anger. Jinshin's face sank even more as he sat on the throne. Heavy killing intent filled his eyes. He had also been angered by the actions of the Tao family. Ignoring the fact that the crystal mines that the Turtle Clan had taken back once belonged to the Turtle Clan, just the fact that the Tao family wanted the Turtle Clan to hand over all the mines had exceeded the limits of Jinshin's tolerance. Not to mention that they wanted the Turtle Clan to compensate them for their losses in the past few years. This could no longer be described as arrogant. Instead, it was excessive, extremely excessive. The fourth elder calmed himself down and continued. How could our Turtle Clan agree to such excessive conditions from the Tao family? In the end, 3 days ago, the alliance of the Tao family began a large-scale attack on our turtle clan. Unfortunately, the alliance of the Tao family completely surpassed our turtle clan. Even with Taido, Qin Yishuan, Lan Jing, Exanpian, and Mocha's, we were unable to stop the Tao family's attack. In just half a day, the 5 16-star experts of our turtle clan were heavily injured by the people of the Tao family's alliance. In the end, we only stopped the battle because a Hall Elder had arrived in time. Yeah, the Tao family originally wanted to use the alliance to wipe out our turtle clan in the battle 3 days ago. If it weren't for the forceful interference of the Hall Elder from Poseidon's Hall and protecting our clan, we might have already been wiped out by the Tao family. Ruler, we must avenge the enmity between us and the Tao family, the 5th elder said with righteous indignation. Ruler, our turtle clan has suffered extremely heavy losses in this battle. Half of our clansmen have died, numbering over 30,000. We've also lost 4 elders, so we can't just let this matter slide, Jianshan said with a deep voice. Ruler, please uphold justice for us. Ruler, we must make the Tao family pay with their blood. All the elders in the hall gritted their teeth as they voiced their grievances. Their eyes burned with the flames of hatred. How many 15-star and 16th-star experts do the Tao family have right now? Jianshan coldly asked. He obviously wanted to avenge the Turtle clan, but he wanted to properly understand the strength of the Tao family before he went. Jianshan did not take Saint Ruler seriously at all. He only cared about how many holy emperors the Tao family had. The elders hesitated before the 4th elder said, Ruler, the alliance of the Tao family currently has at least 4 15-star experts and at least 2 16-star experts. They are the ancestor of the Tao family and the ancestor of the Mashi clan. That's not right. I saw another expert who could match Taido aside from the ancestors of the Tao family and the Mashi clan. That person is a 16-star expert at the very least. I don't think any of you saw it, but when the battle erupted, there was another person whose strength I couldn't tell from the Tao family's alliance. He did not take part in the battle. I think that person is also a 16th-star expert, another elder interrupted. Jianshan frowned. He also discovered that it was indeed rather difficult for these saint rulers to discuss holy emperor experts. Stop arguing. Call Qin Yishuan, Taido, Lan Jing, Exanpian, and Mocha's over. I know they're healing. So get them over here immediately, Jianshan ordered. Chapter 12:31. Jianshan did not have to wait for too long before Qin Yishuan, Taido, Lan Jing, and Exanpian arrived. Mocha's and the other 4 entered the hall. Their faces were pale, without a trace of blood. They were all severely injured. You still know to come back. You sure are comfortable being the ruler of the Turtle clan. You left the 5 of us here while you ran off. I told you to deal with the Tao family back then, but you never agreed. Look at you now. The marriage between the Tao family and the Mashi clan has already taken place. Their strength is not something the current Turtle clan can resist. I like to see what you can do now. Qin Yishuan could not help but criticize Jianshan as soon as she saw him. Although she had reached an agreement with Jianshan to temporarily remain in the Turtle clan, it was only a deal between the 2 of them. However, Qin Yishuan still held a very great prejudice against Jianshan. She had never forgotten how Jianshan had taken a piece of the 8 wastelands from her when she was heavily injured. Unfortunately, Jianshan was no longer the puny saint ruler of the past. Even though Qin Yishuan still resented Jianshan, she knew that she was no longer Jianshan's opponent. I didn't move against the Tao family back then because I did not have complete confidence in suppressing them, which was why I left them alone. I just never thought that the Tao family would grow so powerful so quickly and that they would be bold enough to declare war on our Turtle clan, Jianshan coldly said. The person he truly feared from the Tao family was the ancestor of the Tao family, Tao Zhengtian. It was said that Tao Zhengtian was close to becoming a Hall Elder, and Hall Elders were all experts at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor. Then do you have the power to deal with the Tao family now? Qin Yishuan stared at Jianshan with her phoenix-like eyes. She was the only one present who dared to not give face to Jianshan. She always felt that Jianshan owed her. First, Tell me in detail how many Holy Emperor experts there are in the Tao family's alliance, how strong they are, and how strong that Tao Jing Tian is, Jinshan asked. There are currently 9 Holy Emperors in the Tao family alliance. 4 of them are below the 5th celestial layer, while 5 are above the 5th celestial layer. 1 of them is at the 5th celestial layer, 2 are at the 6th celestial layer, 1 is at the 7th celestial layer, and 1 is at the 8th celestial layer. The patriarch of the Tao family, Tao Zhengtian, is the strongest. He was already at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer and was only 1 step away from the 9th heavenly layer. I also heard that Tao Jingtian also has a divine hall, Qing Yishuan said coldly. Jian Chun frowned. Including newbies and Tai Ta, there were a total of 8 Holy Emperor experts on his side. Tai Do was at the 5th celestial layer, while Qing Yishuan, Lan Jing, Xian Pian, and Mokas were at the 6th celestial layer. Newbies was the weakest at the 4th celestial layer, but if he used his modified Saint Tier battle skill, he could temporarily contend with a 7th celestial layer expert. As for himself and Tai Ta, they would not lose to a 7th celestial layer expert in a one-on-one fight. Overall, their side was no weaker than the Tao family alliance, or even stronger. However, what troubled Jianshan was that Tao Jingtian still had a divine hall. Their side seemed very powerful, but even if they worked together, they would not be able to get through a divine hall. Qing Yishuan thought that Jianshan was not confident in dealing with the Tao family when she saw Jianshan frown. She could not help but sigh inside. The Tao family was like the sun in the sky right now, and Tao Jingtian would become a divine hall elder soon as well. At that time, it would be even more difficult to deal with him. She had no idea if she would still be able to obtain the item she wanted. However, Qing Yishuan would not have dared to return to the Tian Yuan continent if she did not have that item. God damn it, when I obtained the map fragment of the 8 wastelands, I could have used it to exchange for that item with the Tao family, but Jianshan actually took it away from me. Qing Yishuan gritted her teeth when she thought up to there. At this moment, a guard quickly ran in from outside. He said in a rather panicked manner, "Ruler, the Tao family has sent an envoy. He's outside the tribe right now." An envoy of the Tao family. Jianshan was stunned. He had probably never thought that an envoy of the Tao family would come at such a crucial time. However, he returned to his senses soon after and said, "Bring him in. There's no need to lead the way. I can come in myself." As soon as Jianshan finished speaking, an arrogant voice rang out from outside the hall. A skinny old man strode in with his chest puffed out. He seemed to be high and mighty. The old man was a saint ruler, and he had 2 heaven saint masters by his side. The eyes of the elders of the Turtle clan immediately burned with anger when they saw the envoy of the Tao family. They hated the people of the Tao family to the core. As soon as the envoy entered the hall, he quickly glanced around. When he discovered Qing Yishuan and the other 16-star experts standing below while Jianshan sat above, his heart immediately sank slightly. He sensed that something was off, but when he thought about the current strength of the Tao family, he immediately became fearless. The envoy knew that he had come as a representative of the powerful Tao family, so even when he stood beside Qing Yishuan and the other 4 16-star experts, he remained composed and composed. He studied Jianshan without any fear and laughed aloud. "May I ask who this warrior is and why the old man has never seen you before?" The envoy spoke very frivolously, as if he did not care about Jianshan's identity at all. "How dare you? Why don't you kneel before the ruler of our clan?" An elder of the Turtle clan yelled at the envoy. The envoy came to a realization before becoming surprised. He clasped his hands. "Oh, so this is the legendary ruler of the Turtle clan. I have been disrespectful, truly disrespectful. Since you know that he's the ruler of our clan, why don't you kneel and greet him? It's your great honor to be able to meet the ruler of our clan with your mere strength at the 13th star," an elder of the Turtle clan yelled out. The envoy laughed aloud. "You really are the ruler of a clan. You're still so prideful even at a time like this. However, I've only kneeled to ancestor Tao Jingtian before. Even the current patriarch of the Tao family doesn't have the right to make me kneel. I just wonder if the ruler of the Turtle clan is worthy of my kneeling." "How dare you? How dare you speak to the ruler like that? Are you tired of living? The elders of the Turtle Clan all became furious. Jianshun frowned as well. The Tao family was just far too arrogant. Even a mere envoy dared to act so arrogantly before so many holy emperor experts. Taido tossed the three of them out. Jianshun coldly ordered. He did not plan on negotiating with the envoy of the Tao family, no matter what his intentions were for coming here. The envoy's face immediately changed when he heard that Jianshun wanted to toss him out. He yelled out, "Don't you dare! I represent the Tao family." With that, the envoy of the Tao family was tossed out along with his two followers. Although Taido was heavily injured, he was still a fifth heavenly layer holy emperor after all. The envoy of the Tao family could not resist his spatial imprisonment at all. Bang! 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 100 meters away, 3 muffled thuds rang out. The Tao family's emissary and his 2 followers fell to the ground. Although they weren't injured, they were in a sorry state. The 2 followers silently climbed up from the ground. They did not dare to say anything, but the envoy of the Tao family was furious. His body had been firmly trapped by Taido's spatial force when he was tossed out. He was unable to control his body at all. So how could a mighty saint ruler like him come into such close contact with the ground? How would he accept this? At the same time, he subconsciously believed that the Turtle Clan should treat him politely as the loser, but the situation was the exact opposite. The envoy of the Tao family ignored the gloating gazes of the clansmen of the Turtle Clan. Huahua rushed back into the hall furiously and roared, "How dare you? How dare you treat the envoy of the Tao family like this? You will regret this." A gleam of light flashed through Jianshun's eyes. He growled. Taido tossed them out. "If they charge in again, kill them directly." "Yes, sir," Taido replied before arriving before the envoy of the Tao family. He extended his hand to toss the envoy out. "Wait!" The envoy of the Tao family had already been trapped by Taido. Seeing that he was about to be tossed out again, he hurriedly called out to stop him. He gritted his teeth and said, "I've come under the Patriarch's orders to pass on a message. I will leave immediately after that." With that, the envoy of the Tao family probably felt that he was being far too cowardly. So he added, "If it weren't for the Patriarch's orders, I wouldn't have come even if a mere Turtle Clan had invited me. I wouldn't have even wanted to come." "Humph. Speak. What has the Patriarch of the Tao family sent you here for?" Jianshun remained emotionless. The envoy calmed himself down and stared at Jianshun with hostility. Under the Patriarch's orders, the Turtle Clan has tried time and time again to steal the supreme-grade crystal mines of the Tao family, causing heavy losses to the Tao family. At the same time, our Tao family lost a large number of experts and elite disciples in the battle 3 days ago. The Turtle Clan has already caused extremely heavy losses to the Tao family. So the Turtle Clan must compensate the Tao family with 1 billion crystal coins within 15 days. Otherwise, our Tao family will take corresponding measures against the Turtle Clan. The elders of the Turtle Clan all trembled with anger when they heard the envoy's words. The Tao family was going more and more overboard. Let alone the fact that they did not have 1 billion crystal coins. They probably would not be able to gather 100 million even if they used all the power of the clan. Although they had taken over a few crystal mines in the past, the amount of time they had been mining was just far too short. "I've already passed on the Patriarch's words. Farewell." The envoy turned around and wanted to leave. "Wait!" Jianshun called out, stopping the envoy from leaving. The envoy looked back at Jianshun and coldly said, May I ask if you have any other orders, King?" Killing intent flashed through Jianshun's eyes. He coldly replied, "Envoy of the Tao family, I could have let you leave safely before you said that, but I can't do that now." Chapter 1232. Jianshun no longer paid any attention to the envoy. He looked at Taido and said, "Take his head." A sliver of surprise appeared on Taido's face when he heard that. He had never thought that Jianshun would want to kill the envoy here. However, Taido returned to his senses after a moment of surprise. Without saying anything else, he directly moved against the envoy. "How dare you? Does your Turtle Clan want to rebel? I represent the Tao family." The envoy's face drastically changed as he hurriedly cried out. He had never thought that Jianshun would actually want to kill him. After all, he had come here to represent the Tao family. If the Turtle Clan really did kill him, the fury of the Tao family would reduce the Turtle Clan to nothingness. He did not believe that the Turtle Clan was the opponent of the Tao family. Even if the legendary ruler of the Turtle Clan had returned, nothing could be changed. Taido ignored the emissary's cries. He extended his hands and twisted the emissary's head, forcefully plucking it off. The emissary was a saint ruler, but he was immobilized by Taido's abilities. All he could do was watch as his head was separated from his body. The envoy did not die. To saint rulers, separating their heads from their bodies was not enough to take their lives. As long as their souls remained, they could still live even if their heads were shattered. At this moment, the envoy's eyes were wide open as he stared at Jianshun in both surprise and anger. Even now, he still refused to believe that the Turtle Clan would treat him like this, completely ignoring the Tao family behind him. Jianshun extended a finger and a sharp sword chi shot out from the tip of his finger, disappearing into the envoy's forehead with lightning-like speed. The light in the envoy's eyes rapidly receded, becoming hollow very soon. The sword chi from Jianshun's finger had wiped out his soul. Jianshun waved his hand, and a gust of wind blew the envoy's head into the air. It landed firmly in the hands of a follower who had come with the envoy. He coldly said, "Go back and tell Tao Zhengtian that he has one day to return all the crystal mines to the Turtle Clan. Also, he must compensate the Turtle Clan with 10 billion supreme quality crystal coins in one day for the heavy losses the Turtle Clan suffered in the battle a few days ago. If the two conditions are not fulfilled before then, our Turtle Clan will launch a devastating attack against the Tao family and all the clans that have allied themselves with the Tao family. We will not rest until we're dead." The two followers who had come with the envoy had become ghastly pale. Intense fear had invaded their hearts, causing them to tremble uncontrollably. They nodded in a hurry after hearing what Jianshun had said before leaving the Turtle Clan in a panic with the head of the envoy. All the elders of the Turtle Clan were overjoyed when they saw the fate of the envoy. In particular, what Jianshun had said to the two followers made them feel extremely happy and emotional. Their Turtle Clan finally did not have to endure the oppression of the Tao family anymore. At the same time, they gained an even clearer understanding of just how important the ruler was to the Turtle Clan. Without the ruler, their Turtle Clan had suffered a devastating attack from the Tao family. If it were not for the intervention of the Hall elders in the end, their Turtle Clan probably would have ceased to exist. Now that the ruler had returned, their Turtle Clan immediately became tough again. They no longer feared the Tao family. "Jianshun, have you really decided to move against the Tao family? Are you confident that you can deal with them?" Qin Yishuan sternly asked. At the same time, she felt a sliver of eagerness. Jianshun nodded. "If the Tao family really is as weak as you have described, they really won't be much of a threat to us." The situation this time was different from last time. Newbies had already emerged from seclusion, and there was also Tai Ta, who was no weaker than him. The Tao family really did not pose much of a threat to Jianshun, but the five of us are all heavily injured. We won't be able to recover in a short amount of time, Qin Yishuan said with some worry. Although she did not know where Jianshun's confidence came from, she knew that Jianshun was not a reckless person. Jianshun smiled mysteriously. "I obviously know that the five of you are very heavily injured. You don't need to worry about that. I'll make a full recovery very soon." With that, a golden light flashed between Jianshun's eyebrows, and the saint artifact flew out of his sea of consciousness. "Don't resist, you five," Jianshun warned before sending the five of them back into the artifact space. He planned on getting the artifact spirit to heal them. Although Jianshun was also a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, only water elemental energy was the most active in the Sea Realm. Radiant Saint Force was extremely thin, so if he healed the five of them with his own abilities, the effects would be nowhere near as good as on the Tian Yuan continent. As for the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, every bit that Jianshun used was a portion of it. Recovering it was not as easy as recovering chaotic force. So in order to conserve the origin energy, Jinshin could only give the heavy responsibility of healing the 5 of them to the artifact spirit. If Radiant Saint Masters wanted to reach Class 8 from Class 7, they would need to accumulate a certain amount of origin energy. Once their origin energy reached a certain level, it would allow their soul to sublimate, allowing them to reach Class 8. Jinshin did not possess a lot of Radiant Saint Force origin energy, and he had only absorbed it when the seal in the artifact space had been removed last time. This tiny amount of Radiant Saint Force origin energy was Jinshin's hope of reaching Class 8, so unless he had no other choice, he would not waste the tiny amount of Radiant Saint Force origin energy that belonged to him. The artifact spirit had already reached Class 8 as a Radiant Saint Master. Under its healing, the 5 of them made a full recovery in less than an hour, which made them overjoyed. Afterward, Jinshin gave the 5 of them half a day to recover their Saint Force. Half a day later, he led Qing Yishuan, Taido, Lanjing, Xinpian, Mokas, Nubis, and Taita to the Tao family aggressively. A few elders of the Turtle clan accompanied them. Jinshin did not hold any hopes that the Tao family would agree to the one-day deadline, because he knew it was impossible. At the same time, in a medium-sized tribe called the Kaler tribe, several 100,000 kilometers away from the Turtle clan, a middle-aged man paced back and forth in a resplendent room. His brows were tightly furrowed, as if something was weighing on his mind. The middle-aged man was the current patriarch of the Kaler tribe, as well as Keia's father. Jiasua, is the young miss still in seclusion? Suddenly, the patriarch asked from outside the door. Yes, patriarch. The young miss is still in seclusion and has yet to emerge. The voice of a guard rang out from outside. The patriarch of the Kaler tribe furrowed his brows even more. He felt slightly uneasy inside. He understood his daughter's habits extremely well. Although she had displayed extraordinary talent since she was young, she was not particularly interested in cultivation. Otherwise, she probably would have become a 14-star expert with her talent already. However, ever since his daughter Keia had been taken away by the ruler of the Turtle clan, she seemed to have undergone an unbelievable change. She, who had never cultivated in seclusion before, entered a long period of seclusion as soon as she returned to the tribe. She still had not emerged even now, which worried him very much. At the same time, he was extremely curious about what had happened after the ruler of the Turtle clan had taken his daughter away. Why was his daughter so interested in cultivation? Had she been bullied? Just as the patriarch sank into his thoughts, the guard's surprised cry rang out from outside the door. Young miss, why, you've emerged. Before the guard had even finished speaking, the door was pushed open. Keia walked in wearing a set of sky blue clothes. Her presence had changed slightly compared to before she had entered seclusion. The patriarch was stunned when he saw Keia suddenly appear before him, but he soon became overjoyed. He said, Keia, you finally emerged. Fantastic. Do you know how worried I was when you suddenly entered seclusion this time? Keia smiled and gently replied, Father, I'm sorry. I made you worry. The patriarch could sense that Keia did not show any abnormal emotions, which made him let out a sigh of relief. He smiled freely. It's fine, it's fine. It's fine as long as you're fine, Keia. Afterward, the patriarch saw how hesitant Keia was and asked lovingly, Keia, do you have something on your mind? If you need my help, feel free to tell me. I will do everything I can. All right, Keia, why did the ruler of the Turtle clan find you last time? Why did you enter seclusion as soon as you came back and only emerge now? Keia hesitated slightly before saying, Father, I've actually come out this time because I want to get some crystal coins from you. Isn't it just some crystal coins? How much do you need? Tell me, smiled the patriarch. The more the better, because I need a large amount of crystal coins for my seclusion, Keia blushed. She knew that the amount of crystal coins she needed was tremendous. It was probably not something the Kyle tribe could provide. However, she was a girl, and her strength was not at the peak. If she wanted to increase her strength quickly, she had no other choice but to seek the support of the tribe. Chapter 1233. Keia, you have to tell me the truth. What did the ruler of the Turtle clan do to you after he took you away last time? Why do you seem to have become a completely different person after returning? Why do you cultivate so hard? Did the ruler of the Turtle Clan bully you? The patriarch of the Kaler tribe asked with a heavy voice. Kaya knew that her recent changes had caused her father to misunderstand. She could not help but laugh. Father, don't let your imagination run wild. Actually, the ruler of the Turtle Clan came to find me last time and gave me an extremely impressive cultivation method. I couldn't help but begin to cultivate diligently due to my excitement, so I immediately entered seclusion as soon as I returned. An extremely impressive cultivation method? Just what kind of cultivation method is that? It's actually even more powerful than the innate spiritualization technique that you practice. The patriarch stared at Kaya in shock. Kaya hesitated for a while before replying. The ruler of the Turtle Clan gave me the cultivation method of the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands, as well as the comprehension of cultivation from the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands. Father, don't you think it's even more powerful than the innate spirit-opening technique? What? The cultivation method of the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands. The patriarch was shocked. Disbelief filled his face, but his expression suddenly changed. He immediately cast down a barrier with a wave of his hand to isolate the area before excitedly looking at his daughter. He asked with a trembling voice, Daughter, did the ruler of the Turtle Clan really give you the cultivation method and comprehension of cultivation from the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands? It's absolutely true. How could I lie to you, Father? If you don't believe me, why don't I show you the cultivation method? Caius seriously replied. The patriarch immediately waved his hand. No, no, no. Daughter, I believe you. However, you must remember that you cannot let anyone else know that you possess the cultivation method of the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands. Do you understand? The patriarch was extremely stern. Father, I understand, Kaya said solemnly. She clearly understood the severity of the matter. Afterwards, the patriarch passed a space ring to Kaya and said, Daughter, there are 5 million supreme quality crystal coins in here. It's all the crystal coins I have on me. Take it for now. Later, I will hold a meeting of the elders and try to persuade them. Then, I will transfer a portion of the tribe's resources to you. In short, don't worry, I will do everything I can to help you with your cultivation resources. Father, I'll be taking my leave first. I'll cultivate diligently during this time so that I can become a 15-star expert as soon as possible. Kaya took the space ring and left. Without wasting any time, she entered seclusion once again. The patriarch remained in the resplendent room after Kaya's departure. He was unable to calm down from his surging emotions, even after quite some time had passed. He had never thought that his daughter would encounter such a great fortune one day, actually obtaining the cultivation method of an emperor. He also believed that his daughter had an extremely great chance of becoming an emperor with her talent after obtaining the cultivation method of the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands and cultivating something new. As a father, he felt an extremely great sense of pride when he thought about how great his daughter would become in the future, even though that day had yet to come. Strange. The cultivation method of the Emperor of the Eight Wastelands is so precious. So why did the ruler of the Turtle Clan give it to Kaya for no reason? After calming down, the patriarch of the Kaler tribe thought of a very important question. He was very confused by it. However, he did not think too much about it. He removed the barrier and made his way out. 2 guards of the tribe stood at the entrance with their chests puffed out. They stared straight ahead. The patriarch glanced past the 2 of them and coughed. What did the 2 of you just hear? The patriarch seemed indifferent as he asked, but all of his attention was focused on the 2 guards. The 2 guards were both confused. They replied in confusion. Patriarch, we didn't hear anything. The patriarch of the Kaler tribe nodded slightly and gradually left without saying anything else. Afterwards, all he could think about was how he could transfer a batch of resources from the tribe to Kaya for her cultivation without raising the suspicion of the elders. At this moment, over 10 people of various ages were gathered in a majestic hall of the Tao family. They varied in strength, ranging from saint rulers to saint kings. They sat around a large, round table, and various delicacies had already been placed on the table. I really never thought that a Hall Elder would appear in the final moment when we were about to destroy the arrogant Turtle Clan and ruin our plans. What a pity, what a pity. We've missed such a great opportunity, a middle-aged man lamented. A vast presence vaguely radiated from him. He was a holy emperor, and he was also the ancestor of one of the many clans that had allied with the Tao family. His name was Tai Tongi. There's no need to feel pity, brother Tai Tongi. The Turtle Clan may have been able to survive the first time, but there won't be a second time. The patriarch of the Tao family has already sent an envoy to the Turtle Clan. If the Turtle Clan can't pay 1 billion crystal coins in half a month, we'll be perfectly justified in flattening them. As long as we are in the right, even the Hall Elders won't be able to forcefully order us around, said the ancestor of the Khan clan. He was also a holy emperor, and he had reached the 6th heavenly layer. He was a 16th star expert. Tai Tongi clasped his hands at the ancestor of the Khan clan and said, Brother D-Sun is right, but I'm just worried that the Turtle Clan will use this opportunity to flee and move out of the territory of the Poseidon Hall. Or what should we do if they really do pay 1 billion crystal coins in half a month? A blue-robed, middle-aged man with a striking appearance stood up and clasped his hands. Senior Tai Tongi's worries are completely unnecessary. First of all, it's impossible for the Turtle Clan to leave. They still haven't paid the 1 billion crystal coins we asked for. If they leave the territory of the Poseidon Hall, we'll be perfectly justified in stopping them. Secondly, I've already sent people to investigate the Turtle Clan in detail. Even if they use everything they have, they won't be able to pay 100 million crystal coins, not to mention that we're asking for 1 billion. The middle-aged man was the current patriarch of the Tao family, Tao Yun. He was a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. It was rumored that he would definitely break through within 50 years and reach an even higher level. We don't have to worry since Patriarch Tao has said that. A few months ago, my most beloved grandson died to the hands of the experts of the Turtle Clan. I will have the entire Turtle Clan pay for this with their blood, a bald old man coldly said. Heavy killing intent filled his eyes. Don't worry, Brother Ingimo. Your grandson's death will be avenged very soon. The Turtle Clan will be destroyed in half a month, said a ruddy, sagely old man. He was the ancestor of the Tao family, Tao Zhengtian. At this moment, an old man who seemed to be a caretaker ran in from outside. His complexion was very ugly. He said with a deep voice, Patriarch, the envoy to the Turtle Clan has returned. Let him in and report the exact situation, Tao Zhengtian coldly said. Yes, sir. The caretaker left with the order. Very soon, the 2 subordinates who had gone to the Turtle Clan trembled as they held a bloody head. Bloody human heads walked in from the outside. Then, they lowered their heads and knelt on the ground. Everyone's expressions changed, including Tao Zhengtian, when they saw the bloody head. They became furious as heavy killing intent radiated from their eyes. Bang! Tao Zhengtian slammed the table and stood up. His face was terrifyingly sunken as he furiously roared. How dare the Turtle Clan kill the envoys sent by our Tao family? The Turtle Clan is already facing extinction, yet they still do not know how to repent and kill the envoys of the Tao family in such a brazen manner. They're looking down on the Tao family. This is a direct provocation to the Tao family, as well as a demonstration to all of us here. The experts from the various clans all spoke with righteous indignation. They were beyond furious. You too. Tell me everything that happened. Don't leave out a single detail. The patriarch of the Tao family, Tao Yun, said to the 2 subordinates emotionlessly. The 2 subordinates did not dare to hide anything. They immediately recounted everything that had happened in the Turtle Clan. I never thought that a mere ruler of the Turtle Clan would be so arrogant. Does he think he's a Hall Elder? Tao Zhengtian immediately sneered coldly when he heard the 2 subordinates' words. Ancestor, the ruler of the Turtle Clan, also wanted me to bring back a message. One of the subordinates hesitantly said. Speak. What message did the ruler of the Turtle Clan want you to bring? Tao Zhengtian coldly asked. The ruler of the Turtle Clan said that we have one day to return all the crystal mines to the Turtle Clan, and that we must compensate them with 10 billion supreme quality crystal coins for the heavy losses we suffered in the battle against the Turtle Clan a few days ago. If we fail to do so within that time, the Turtle Clan will launch a devastating attack against us and all the clans that have allied themselves with the Tao family. They will not rest until they're dead. The subordinate said fearfully. The hall immediately fell into an odd silence with that. Everyone was stunned by what the subordinate had said. They all remained stunned on the spot, unable to return to their senses even after quite a while. Ha 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 ha. I didn't hear wrong. The ruler of the Turtle Clan wants us to compensate them with 10 billion supreme quality crystal coins within a day, or they'll launch a devastating attack against us. Has the ruler of the Turtle Clan lost his mind from anger? Why don't the Turtle Clan take a look at themselves first? They want to launch a devastating attack against us with just them? Tui, I think the ruler of the Turtle Clan has eaten a leopard's gall. The experts gathered in the hall all sneered. None of them believed that the Turtle Clan possessed the strength to do so. Tao Xingtian began to laugh from his anger. His gaze became extremely sharp in a single moment as heavy killing intent flickered wildly in his eyes. He sneered, good. Since the Turtle Clan is so arrogant, I'd like to see just how they'll launch a devastating attack against us with just their measly strength. Everyone, I originally wanted to give the Turtle Clan half a month, but it looks like we don't need to wait for half a month at all. We can move against the Turtle Clan tomorrow. Everyone, let's head to the Turtle Clan right now and see just how arrogant they are. There's no need to go. We're already here. Chapter 1234. Above the Tao family, the 8 Holy Emperor experts, Jinshan, Taita, Nubis Qing Yishuan, Taido, Lanjing, Xanpian, and Mokas, proudly hovered 100 meters in the air. They were all emotionless and cold as vast presences flooded the surroundings, enveloping the entire Tao family. Under the pressure of the 8 of them, the space there seemed to become heavy. The weaker clansmen of the Tao family all paled, and a small portion of them even began to bleed from the corner of their mouths. Their organs were unable to withstand the pressure and had ruptured from the supreme presence. Even the saint rulers of the Tao family revealed extremely unnatural expressions. Powerful energy revolved around them, as they did everything they could to resist the tremendous presence that constantly descended from the sky. A cold snort rang out from the majestic hall at the very center of the Tao family. Afterward, the 9 tremendous presences of the Holy Emperor swept up from below without showing any weakness. They violently collided with the presences of Jinshan and the others like frenzied tigers. Bang! The 2 formless auras fiercely collided, and a dull sound rang out in the air. The elemental energy between heaven and earth was also affected. In an instant, it became berserk, and then it turned into a storm that wreaked havoc in all directions. It blew up the sand and stones on the ground, and smoke and dust filled the sky. The 2 sides clashed with presences this time, but no one gained the upper hand. Tao Xingtian flew up from below with a sunken face. The 8 Holy Emperor experts from the alliance of several large clans followed behind him. Their expressions were all very ugly. You're the ruler of the Turtle Clan? Tao Xingtian coldly asked as he stared at Jinshan. He then quickly studied the 7 other people beside Jinshan and was immediately surprised. He had never thought that the Turtle Clan would actually have 8 Holy Emperor experts. They were only 1 less than the alliance of several large clans. However, what shocked him even more was that the 5 of them had actually recovered from their wounds. Tao Xingtian knew the wounds of the 5 of them extremely well. 3 days ago, he had predicted that it would take several years for them to recover from their wounds. As a matter of fact, it would even leave behind irreparable sequelae after they recovered. Even with the sacred medicine they possessed, it would still take them a year or so to recover. Yet now, in just 3 short days, the 5 of them had completely recovered. They did not seem to have suffered any sequelae at all, which completely overturned Tao Zhengtian's understanding. That's right. I am the ruler of the Turtle Clan, Tao Zhengtian. This king will make your Tao family pay for the debt from 3 days ago. Jinshan sneered. A sliver of disdain appeared in Tao Jingtian's eyes when he heard that. He also sneered, "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, your Turtle Clan actually has 8 15th and 16-star experts. This has indeed exceeded old man's expectations. But if you think that you could defeat my Tao family with just these 8 experts, you're sorely mistaken." Jinshin's gaze gradually sharpened, becoming as sharp as a blade. Along with it was a powerful killing intent. He sneered, "Really? Then let's see just who's sorely mistaken." With that, the Emperor armament appeared in Jinshin's hand. At that moment, Jinshin's presence suddenly changed. If he was described as an ordinary person before, he was now like a sword that stood in the world with a surging presence. "Kill!" Suddenly, Jinshin bellowed out. He aggressively charged toward Tao Zhangtian with the Emperor armament in hand. At the same time, newbies Taita, Qingyuan, Taido, Lanjing, Xinpian, and Mochas began to move as well. Mochas, who had reached the peak of the 6th heavenly layer, faced off against the ancestor of the Mashi clan, who was at the 7th heavenly layer. Lanjing and Xinpian, 2 experts at the 6th heavenly layer, faced off against 2 6th heavenly layer Holy Emperor from the Tao family. Qin Yishuan faced off against a 5th heavenly layer Holy Emperor, while newbies and Taido faced off against a 4th heavenly layer Holy Emperor. As for Taita, he faced off against 2 Holy Emperors by himself. However, the 2 Holy Emperors were the weakest existences in the Tao family. One of them was at the 2nd heavenly layer, while the other was at the 3rd heavenly layer Holy Emperor. Jinshin had decided on this arrangement along the way. Including Jinshin, all of them aimed to keep their opponents busy. In the end, Taita, who was the strongest, would be in charge of killing. They would start from the weakest one. A total of 17 Holy Emperor experts engaged in an intense battle in the air above the Tao family. They fought until the surroundings collapsed and the sun and moon dimmed. The terrifying ripples of energy that erupted turned into terrifying storms that wreaked havoc in the surroundings. Even the 9th heavenly layer saint rulers dared not approach them. Jinshin and Tao Zhengtian fought the most intense battle. Tao Zhengtian knew that Jinshin was not as strong as him, so he used his full strength right from the start. He wanted to finish off Jinshin as quickly as possible so that he could assist the others in dealing with the experts of the Turtle Clan. Jinshin's battle prowess was at the peak of the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor when he was at his limit. He used his full strength against Tao Zhengtian, who was at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He did not hold back at all. He pushed the advantage of his chaotic body to the limit. Destructive, chaotic force coiled around his Emperor armament as he constantly stabbed out. Every single strike aimed at Tao Zhengtian's vitals. The frequency of his sword strikes was extremely fast, each strike faster than the previous one, forming an impenetrable sword net in front of him. However, Tao Zhengtian was at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer after all. He had been through hundreds of battles, so his battle experience was no less than Jinshin's. He was still able to deal with Jinshin's attacks calmly. He would also use the Holy Emperor's abilities to restrain Jinshin's movements from time to time. Although the frozen space would be shattered by Jinshin's Emperor armament before it could completely form, it still made things difficult for Jinshin. He gradually forced Jinshin into a disadvantageous position. Although Jinshin was not as powerful as Tao Zhengtian, the difference between them was only a single heavenly layer. At the same time, Jinshin had experienced countless battles of various sizes in his life, so his battle experience was extremely plentiful as well. It would be extremely difficult for Tao Zhengtian to heavily injure Jinshin in a short amount of time. Aside from Jinshin, Mochas had also fallen into a disadvantageous position. His opponent was the ancestor of the Mashi clan, who was at the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He had already been forced back by the ancestor of the Mashi clan, so he was nowhere near as composed as Jinshin. Below, the Tao family's territory had already been enveloped by a huge energy barrier, protecting the weaker members of the Tao family and preventing them from being affected by the shockwaves of the battle. Even though the barrier was extremely tough, it was still rather difficult for it to block the shockwaves from the battle between 17 Holy Emperor experts. The transparent barrier had already begun to shake under the constant attacks of the violent storms of energy, and it shook more and more. Several tens of thousands of clansmen of the Tao family had already gathered within the barrier, but including the saint rulers, all of them stared at the shaking barrier nervously. They all knew that without the protection of the barrier, the Tao family would be razed to the ground by the shockwaves from the battle between over a dozen saint kings in a single moment. At this moment, a dazzling golden light flashed. Taita swung his axe, which was a meter long, with a single hand. It tore through the air with lightning-like speed, flying toward the Holy Emperor. The golden axe contained a supreme battle intent, which seemed to be able to annihilate a person's soul. The Holy Emperor was the target of Taita's attack, so he could sense the supreme battle intent within the golden axe the most. It shattered his courage in a single moment, and he actually felt like he could not resist the attack. The golden light grew larger and larger in his eyes. The supreme battle intent had not only shattered his courage to fight, it had also taken away all of his focus. His soul had already been silently injured under the impact of the supreme battle intent. Spurt. The golden axe passed through the Holy Emperor's body. His body was cleaved in half from his forehead, and his soul was wiped out before it could even escape. The golden axe did not slow down at all after killing the Holy Emperor. It continued toward the energy barrier that protected the Tao family. Boom! The energy barrier immediately produced a deafening sound. The barrier was already on the verge of shattering from the shockwaves of energy from over a dozen Saint Kings. Coupled with Taita's extraordinarily powerful attack from the axe, it could not endure any longer and loudly shattered. After the Tao family lost the protection of the energy barrier, the berserk energy ripples immediately surged down like a flood. In an instant, the densely packed buildings all around the Tao family collapsed one after another, causing countless deaths and injuries. Tao Zhengtian bellowed out at the sky. Extremely powerful killing intent radiated from his body as he yelled, "Expert of the Turtle Clan, if you have the guts, let's fight to the death 10,000 kilometers away. There's no need to go so far. Isn't it better to fight to the death, right here?" Jianshin sneered. He was extremely happy inside. Regardless of the outcome of the battle, the Tao family would suffer heavy losses. "Arg, expert of the Turtle Clan, old man will skin you alive and pull out your tendons." Tao Jingtian roared at the sky. After the barrier around the Tao family shattered, a third of the elite disciples of the Tao family had died. They were all the future hope of the Tao family. Chapter 1235. Tao Jingtian's face paled from anger when he heard what Jianshun had said. His killing intent had reached its limit. He yelled out, "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, I, Tao Thun, swear that I will grind your bones to dust. I will make you regret this. You will pay a heavy price for what you have done today." "Ha ha ha. I, Jianshun, have never regretted my actions. Tao Jingtian, you may be stronger than me right now, but you don't have the right to grind my bones to dust with your current strength." Jianshan sneered before shooting out 5 powerful strands of black sword chi with lightning-like speed from the Emperor armament in his hand. With a single movement, Tao Jingtian easily dodged Jianshan's 5 strands of sword chi. Although the sword chi did not hit Tao Jingtian, they continued off into the distance without slowing down. They caught up to the 5 saint rulers of the Tao family in a single moment, piercing into their bodies and disappearing. Arg! The 5 saint rulers all cried out in pain. Their facial muscles were twisted, as if they were enduring some sort of unbearable torture. However, their cries only lasted for less than a second before they came to a halt. Then, their eyes turned hollow. The black sword chi that had pierced into their bodies had already entered their primordial spirits, shattering their primordial spirits and destroying them in both form and spirit. Tao Jingtian had focused all of his attention on Jianshan, but he still knew what was happening in the surroundings. Seeing how Jianshan's 5 strands of sword chi just happened to hit the 5 saint rulers of the Tao family, it was impossible for him to not understand that Jianshan's target was not him, but the saint rulers of the Tao family. Tao Jingtian immediately roared out in anger. He attacked Jianshun with his spear even more wildly. He hated Jianshun to the core. The Tao family was large and one of the most powerful clans in the territory of the Poseidon Hall, but they only had around a dozen saint rulers. Losing 5 saint rulers in a single stroke was a great loss to the Tao family. Tao Jingtian's spear and Jianshun's emperor armament danced around like blurs. The spears would collide with the emperor armaments from time to time, erupting with loud booms. Powerful streams of energy and scattered sword chi shot off in all directions, creating huge pits and bottomless holes in the ground. A few wounds had already appeared on Jianshun's body, dyeing his clothes red. Even though he was injured, his battle prowess did not decrease at all. Instead, he became more and more courageous. At the same time, chaotic force rapidly circulated through his body. Not only did it control his wounds in an extremely short amount of time, but it also rapidly healed them. Jianshun was indeed not Tao Jingtian's opponent, but it was basically impossible for Tao Jingtian to kill Jianshun. Even heavily injuring Jianshun and killing Jianshun was not something that could be done in a short amount of time. At this moment, there was another flash of dazzling golden light. Taita's golden axe soared through the air, swinging toward the 3rd heavenly layer Holy Emperor. Before the axe had even arrived, the supreme battle intent within it seemed to have transformed into a huge hammer, viciously striking the 3rd heavenly layer Holy Emperor's soul. It shattered his courage to fight at that moment, causing him to become stunned for a moment. At that moment, there was a flash of golden light. The axe had already turned into a blur as it swung down from the 3rd heavenly layer Holy Emperor's head, shattering his soul. Even his body had been cleaved in half by Taita's attack. Blood rained down from the sky as a rain of blood. Taita casually removed a space ring. Afterwards, he did not stop at all. With a flash of golden light, he vanished. When he reappeared, he was before Nubis. Nubis' opponent was a 4th heavenly layer Holy Emperor. Although he was at the same level as Nubis, Nubis was a golden-striped silver snake of antiquity. There were very few people who could match him at the same level as Nubis. Although it was very difficult for him to kill someone at the same level as him in such a short amount of time, he was still able to heavily injure and poison his opponent. This was the poison of the golden-striped silver snake. It was extremely potent. Coupled with the fact that Nubis was already at the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, his body was several times more powerful than before. Even a Holy Emperor would not be able to escape death if he was not treated quickly. Big Guy, the great Nubis can kill him. He won't be able to last much longer. Don't worry about me. Go help the others. Nubis obviously knew what Taita wanted to do when he arrived beside him. So he hurriedly said to Taita, Nubis, Jianshun said that we have to kill a few holy emperors in the shortest amount of time possible. Otherwise, once Tao Jingtian takes out the Divine Hall, we won't have a chance anymore. Let me deal with him quickly right now. Then immediately go help Jianshun deal with Tao Jingtian, Taita said in a muffled voice. All right, big guy. I'll leave his person to you. I'll go help Jianshun. Nubis obeyed Taita's suggestion and left his opponent to Taita. He immediately went to help Jianshun deal with Tao Jingtian. The Tao family had 2 holy emperor experts in total. The first was Tao Jingtian, and the second was Tao Lin. Tao Lin had been poisoned by the silver-striped golden snake during his battle with Nubis, and his strength had been greatly reduced. Then, he took on several attacks from Nubis and was heavily injured. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to last much longer. Coincidentally, his opponent changed from Nubis to the even more terrifying Taita. This made Tao Lin's heart sink. Although he had never clashed with Taita before, he had witnessed how Taita had killed 2 Holy Emperor experts effortlessly. Probably even the strongest person in the Tao family, Tao Jingtian, would not be able to achieve such a glorious feat. How long could he last against Taita, who could easily kill 2 Holy Emperor experts while he was heavily injured? Tao Lin became extremely fearful of Taita at that moment. He did not want to fight with Taita at all, so he turned around and fled as quickly as he could. Seeing Tao Lin running away from him without a fight, Tai Ta was slightly stunned as well. However, he immediately smiled and said, "You can't escape from me." Heaven battling profound skill, chasing stars and moon. With that, Tai Ta vanished with a flash of golden light. Basically, in the next moment, he silently reappeared several thousand meters away. Not only did he catch up to Tao Lin, but he also happened to block Tao Lin's path. Tao Lin was shocked when he saw Tai Ta suddenly appear in front of him like he had teleported. Disbelief filled his face. However, before he could do anything, a dazzling golden light appeared before his eyes. He saw Tai Ta swing the golden axe on his shoulder towards him. Just when he wanted to dodge, a supreme battle intent seemed to transform into a huge hammer that smashed against his soul. It made him feel like a bolt of lightning had exploded in his head out of nowhere. It was deafening. Not only did it shatter all his courage to fight, it even stunned him. The supreme battle intent within the axe had been casually unleashed by Tai Ta. He had not purposefully accumulated it. Coupled with the fact that Tao Lin was more powerful than the two holy emperors that Tai Ta had killed earlier, his soul was slightly more powerful. Naturally, his resistance was greater as well. Just as Tower's axe was about to hit Tao Lin suddenly woke up. Looking at the golden axe that kept growing bigger in front of him, he was so scared that his face turned pale. Without thinking, he used the trident in his hand to block in front of him. Clang! The trident blocked Tower's axe and broke into two halves from middle. The huge impact sent Tao Lin flying from the sky and smashed into the ground below, creating a large crater. His whole body sank deep into the crater and blood gushed out of his mouth. Tao did not plan on going around Tao Lin. He immediately followed up with his golden axe. Tao Lin. Tao Xingtian realized that Tao Lin was in a life-threatening situation. He raised his head and roared at the sky. He used all his strength to force back Jianshen before charging towards Tao Lin in an attempt to save him. Tao Lin was the holy emperor of the Tao family, and he had a close relationship with Tao Xingtian. Tao Xingtian could watch the holy emperors of other families die without doing anything, but he definitely would not allow the holy emperor of the Tao family to die in front of him. Newbies rushed over aggressively from afar and blocked Tao Zhengtian's path. He sneered, "Tao Zhengtian, allow me, the great newbies, to have a taste of your strength." With that, Newbie spat out a gray, poisonous mist. His hands turned into a pair of powerful claws in an instant. They seemed rather similar to Rui Jin's dragon claws. He then swiped towards Tao Xingtian's chest with lightning speed. A tremendous amount of energy surged out of Tao Xingtian's body, instantly forming a meter-thick barrier around him. It blocked out Newbie's poisonous mist. When Newbie's claws came into contact with the barrier, they slowed down drastically. "Piss off!" Tao Xingtian bellowed out furiously. He directly struck out with his palm, sending Newbies flying with blood. Afterward, he rushed over to save Newbies. Tai Ta also understood Tao Zhengtian's intentions. His expression finally became more serious. He changed from holding the axe with one hand to holding it with both hands. A powerful golden radiance began to rapidly gather on the giant axe from the void. The will of battle contained within the giant axe was also rapidly rising. Mysteries of war, space-breaking technique. Tai Ta let out a low murmur. He suddenly swung down the axe that was raised above his head, sending a blinding golden light into the void. Tao Xingtian was rushing towards Tao Lin with reckless abandon. At this moment, his expression suddenly changed. 3 meters in front of him, a blinding golden light seemed to appear out of thin air. It was hacking towards him with lightning speed. At the same time, a powerful battle intent suddenly erupted, smashing into his soul like a huge hammer. This battle intent was many times stronger than what Tao Lin had to endure. Tao Xingtian was caught off guard and lost his mind for a moment. However, he was a holy emperor 8th celestial layer powerhouse, after all. Whether it was strength or soul, he was not someone Tao Lin could compare to. He reacted almost instantly. Without any hesitation, he immediately stabbed out with all his strength. The spear in his hand collided with Tai Ta's golden axe. Boom!